sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman and honorable council members, it's my pleasure today to introduce a gentleman who really needs an introduction. He's been a friend of mine and a friend of this community for many, many years. I've had the pleasure of serving with him for 8 years, and he was chairman of the Tampa City Council and also chairman of the Hillsborough County Commission. My pleasure to say that Bishop Tom Scott is going to do the prayer today. He's been, first of all, started at the Church of God in 1980, and later on that, as we all know, became the 34th Street Church of God. And he's been a visionary for the city of Tampa for many years. He helps the kids. He's been a gentleman that I've known to be straightforward and tells you exactly how he feels. Besides being a good preacher of the Lord and disciple and telling us exactly what we should do, he also has a degree in criminal justice, which I never knew, and with a minor in sociology. And he also received his doctorate of divinity degree at Southern California School of Ministry in 1995 and a doctor of human letters in July of 2006 at the Florida Metropolitan University. My pleasure to introduce Bishop Tom Scott, who will say the morning prayer. Please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, to this distinguished body. Thank you. It is always my honor and a privilege to come and share and do the invocation, and I'm honored that you invited me to come. And Charlie, thank you again for your office, and I always tell them no need for a long introduction. I think everybody know me by now. But we are so grateful today that at least Florida dodged the bullet, while at the same time we recognize that there are others who have been devastated by the hurricane, so we want to remember them in our prayers today. Will you pray with me? How good and pleasant it is for us to dwell together in unity and in the spirit of truth as we come in your divine presence today. And we pause because your word instructs us to acknowledge you in all of our ways, and that you will give directions and order our steps to our pathway. Today we pause and thank you for your grace and your mercy. And we thank you today for this council as they shall deliberate today to make important decisions for our community and for our city. I pray for wisdom. I pray for knowledge. I pray for understanding. I pray for patience. I pray you'll be with them as they lead this city and this community. Not only for them, but we pray for all of our elected officials. We pray that you'll bless them in a very special way. Our mayor, who leads the city of Tampa, continue to cover and protect her as she leads and guides this city. Then we pray for our nation. We pray for our world. And we pray, God, for the Bahamas today, the devastation that our eyes have seen. We pray for those who have lost loved ones. We pray for those who have lost everything. We pray for those who are hurt and wounded. And we pray for a divine intervention. And we thank you for what you are going to do. Now we thank you for America, the greatest nation upon the earth. I pray now you continue to help this nation to be a nation of freedom and justice and liberty for all. For it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Dean Fowler. Goods.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Cedro.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Vieira.
Here. Okay. We move to approval of the agenda and addendum to the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and before we move on to ceremonial activities, I know number one's going to be moved. I wanted to announce a conflict on items 25, 44, and 45, and pursuant to Florida law, hand these over.
Mr. Vieira,
Yes, sir.
my apologies, but if you could just state very briefly the nature of the conflict.
Certainly. These matters involve substance on which my law firm is involved, and therefore I will be unable to vote.
Thank you, and you'll be leaving the chambers during the subject matters that
Yes,
come
sir.
up? Thank you.
You.
Thank you, and you're
Thank you.
filing the form with the clerk. Thank you.
Okay. And so we have item number 1, which was a presentation and commendation, but that is being removed. May I have a motion to remove that?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we don't have a reset date so far?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 2, we're going forward with our friend Colonel DJ Reyes. If you want to come forward, Colonel Reyes. It is our great honor here today to have a good friend of mine who I've known for too darn long, Colonel DJ Reyes, who is really, along with his wonderful wife Julie, who's here, 2 of our most exceptional citizens here in the city of Tampa. Colonel Reyes has over 33 years of service with the United States Army, with tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and so many other places. Colonel Reyes serves as a senior mentor and program coordinator for our Veterans Treatment Court here in Hillsborough County in the 13th Judicial Circuit, which Colonel Reyes founded. He was the first one right there. He was over there. Colonel Reyes is here to discuss the Veterans Treatment Court and to provide some updates and initiatives like the bipartisan Veteran Treatment Court Coordination Act, which is sponsored by our very own Congresswoman Kathy Castor, Charlie Crist, and supported by all of our Tampa Bay delegation, I believe. And I can tell you on a personal basis, Colonel Reyes is just one of the best people I know. He was back when the Veterans Treatment Court was led by Judge Richard Weiss. Colonel Reyes came up to Judge Weiss and said, "Sir, how can I help?" And from that started the Veterans Treatment Court. So many individuals who have been affected. It's been nationally recognized, including by our former Attorney General Holder and so many others. Now I know this administration is working with you, the Trump administration and others, in recognizing that. And so we're really, really thankful, Colonel Reyes. This is, for so many of the mentors, for all the mentors, it's a real act of love, and y'all don't get paid a dime for it. And it's pretty much like a full-time job. So, Colonel, I'll let you take the floor, sir.
Well, before I start, thank you, Mr. Chair and City Council. I think that was pretty all-inclusive. Are there any questions? I'll be followed by the Chair. No. If I could have the first slide, please. Normally what happens is if we're waiting for a slide and it doesn't come up, I'm supposed to tell a joke. Okay, so there's City Council and the Chair. No, I won't go there. While we're waiting for the slide, let me just say this. So Luis Vieira asked me if I would do the honor to update you all on the Veterans Treatment Court. I believe, I was trying to go through my cobwebs, I think it was 4 years ago. There it is. I think it was 4 years ago when I first came before you. And we were kind of a little fledgling now, because now we've been on for about 6.5 years. And so we were a little fledgling, and I remember, I can't recall the name of the councilwoman, but she had asked me, what is it that we can do for you? And I said, really, just the fact that I'm allowed to be here and just to educate and bring community awareness to this very important program is enough right now. But I'll let you know in a few years. I think we're on a good glide path, and what I'd like to do is, if you would indulge with me for the next few slides, I want to give you a quick snapshot of what's happened in the 6.5 years. The bottom line is this, and I do have a bottom line slide, but this is a good news story for all of us here in Tampa because, again, we're the hands and feet of this program, and we see what happens and the goodness that happens of this. But when you take local government and you collaboratively work with the federal government, and you leverage the whole of community approach with local community providers, and then you bring in volunteers, veterans who have the heart of service, even many of us who are out of uniform, but we have to help our brothers and sisters. And we do that pro bono. We do it for free. When you combine all of that, you have the success recipe for a wonderful community program. And I'm so proud, and as Luis just covered it, we're so proud because not only are we wildly successful in this VTC, but as you're going to see in some of the slides, we've received state level and national level prominence and recognition. And it's all because of the hard work of the men and women, starting with our judge. Our current judge is Mike Shante. All our volunteers, our PD under the able leadership of Julianne Holt, our state attorney under the able leadership of Andrew Warren, the VA under Joe Battle, and all of our community resource providers. So I just wanted to just get that out there to let you know this is a good news story. This is the second good news story. The first is that we avoided Dorian, okay? Well, this is the second one, and I'm so proud to tell you this story. So, let's see. I'm pressing the right to shift the slide, as I was told. We'll get to there.
We'll get you help.
Yeah. While they're getting there, fortunately, I have my paper slide so I can talk it. Okay, so the second slide is the bottom lineup slide. There are 3 points that I want to make to all of you to kind of put perspective into this. The first bullet is, as we all are educated on veterans issues, and we hear it all the time on national television, okay, different things such as homelessness, education, employment, mental health issues like PTSD, traumatic brain injury, substance and alcohol abuse, all of these things. If you want a front row seat to those issues and see how a system can come together to resolve a lot of that, come to the Veterans Treatment Court. So I invite, for those city council members that have not yet been to the VTC, and I know I have some folks there that have been intimately involved, and of course Mr. Dingfelder was a PD and he actually was in the VTC with us. I'm sure they can tell you that that is a life-changing experience to come to that court, because it is a court like no other. It is a treatment and rehab court. But you get to see all of the problems there, and then you get to see how we solve it, starting with the judge, and how he leverages all the community through national level resources. The second thing is, and it's very important, that second point, we do a good job, and in the military we have a saying, and that is right of the boom. So right of the boom means when the bomb, like the IED, explodes, now we're doing consequence management. Now we're trying to figure out, okay, we have bodies laid out there. How do we triage? How do we take care? How do we treat our wounded? Okay? The VTC is a great example of that, because these veterans are already coming into our court because they got in trouble with the law. Through admissibility requirements based on the VA and federal law, they have service and combat-connected disabilities and disorders, which is a nexus or a connection to the crime that they committed. So now we bring them into the court and we help identify the problem, we treat them, we rehab them, we get them on their way. What we need to do now is be more proactive. We need to use this as the template to be visionary and to look left of the boom. Okay? This doesn't just apply for veterans in the Veterans Treatment Court. This quite honestly applies to everything that we do in our society, whether it's local, state, or national. But this is one of the takeaways that I feel as the program coordinator that I see each and every day. Do a great job after the fact. We need to get before the fact. And then the final thing is a little plug for us, a little PSA. We have grown to some prominence. We are the largest now in the nation, over 450 VTCs. We have the largest docket. We have the largest volunteer veteran mentor corps that we're very, very proud of. We got a great success rate. As you can see, we are single digits in recidivism rate, and we save a lot of money when you look at the average for Hillsborough County of $19,000 a year to incarcerate an inmate, and all those attendant costs, we recapture all that in tax dollars. And so again, it's a good news story. Is that good? It worked? All right, great. Why are we doing this? All right. There's a slide that's supposed to come up. A little technical difficulties, but I can tell you what that slide says. There are 3 states in our nation that have the most veterans in their state. Number 1 is California, number 2 is Texas, and number 3 is Florida. When you look at the numbers, if it ever comes up, the numbers between Texas and Florida the gap is closing in. And based on recent VA statistics and based on demographics, they're estimating between the next 2 to 5 years, Florida is going to become the number 2 state in the nation with the most veterans. That's why it's important, because we're bringing in more veterans into our state. All right, so they're having a little bit of difficulty. That's okay, I can talk it. The next slide, if you will, if you can just picture this, it's a graphic. And the graphic basically shows the growth of our program. So back in 2013, we started with 6 veterans and 1 mentor, myself. And as Councilman Vieira noted, it was Judge Weiss. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward you 6.5 years later. We're on our 3rd judge, which is Judge Shante. We're on our 3rd judicial administrative order. We have between 175 and 225 veterans on our docket. And we have a total mentor program of 138 volunteers, of which at any time, 62 are active. The reason why I say that is many of my veteran mentors are active duty. They're from MacDill Air Force Base. Many of them are deployed. Many of them are Guard and Reserve, and they're helping out with Dorian. Okay? That's the group of folks that I have in this program. They're serving while in uniform, and then they're serving as volunteers. And so because of that, it's very dynamic. But as I said earlier, this is a growth industry, and I just I don't see a cap on this. And I'm going to get to that in a second when I get to the legislation piece, something that's going to affect all of us, not just Tampa, but all of the VTCs in Florida because of a recent legislation that was passed. On my next slide, okay, so you're behind me, that's okay. All right, okay, remember when I talked about whole of community? At the end of the day, this is the whole of community. I know it's small, you can't read it, but I can just kind of describe it to you. Each one of those boxes represents various sectors in our community, whether it's educational on the top at the 12 o'clock location with Kaiser University, Stetson Law, University of Tampa, or National Louis University, all the way at the 6 o'clock position, which is crisis intervention, where we deal with Crisis Center at Tampa Bay, or substance programs right to its left with Tampa Crossroads, the VA, or Riverside Recovery. The intent of this slide is to show you that it takes a village. And this village is local, state, regional, and national. And we do this every single day. Many of these representatives are in fact resident in the Veterans Treatment Court as part of our team that provides support to the judge when the judge asks for support. To your 4 o'clock position, there's a block that says other VTCs. Since we have grown, I've had many VTC teams from other states actually contact me and say, hey, Colonel Reyes, can you help us stand up our program? Okay, and you're going to see in another slide for training, that's exactly what I'm doing offline, either virtually or in person. The point of that is that the word has gotten out about Tampa's VTC. We're very aggressive. We have a website that was on the first slide. If you wish, at your convenience, you can take a look at that website, but it lays out and outlines the entire history and lineage of our program, why we do what we do, and what we're continuing to do, and more importantly, where we're going in the future. Okay, so this should be the last slide. Here's some updates. So as I mentioned earlier about the training, I'm actually, as we speak, I'm virtually training up my counterpart in Orange County, their VTC, by request of their court. They asked me, hey, can you help our guy out and help stand up their program? I said, sure. I'm doing that right now. I'm helping Leon County with their VTC mentor program, standing up. Next week, I am virtually dialing into Knoxville, Tennessee. The VTC judge out there asked me to dial in and actually give a presentation to her training conference, her first training conference, so I'm going to do that. Next month, myself and Judge Shante, upon the invitation of the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court of Kansas, asked us to come out to present the Tampa VTC program because he is trying to kickstart his program in the state of Kansas. Let's put this in perspective. We have 67 counties and we have currently 34 VTCs in Florida. Kansas has 101 counties and they have one VTC. So he has said to me, the Chief Justice, what's wrong with this picture? And I said, what's wrong with this picture is you aren't Tampa and you're not the Tampa VTC program. And so he said, okay, well then you need to get your butt over here and you need to help me motivate my legislature, my judicial, all my judges, and oh, by the way, I'm going to invite my governor and both my U.S. senators here to hear you and Judge Shante talk. So that's what we're going to do on the 22nd of October. And then finally in November, we just decided, hey, look, a lot of people are asking us for help. We're just going to have our own first regional VTC and mentor training conference. So Andrew Warren was so kind to host it. So we're going to use his big state-of-the-art conference room, and we're going to have it, like I said, in the 6th of November, and we're inviting up to 7 circuit courts from the surrounding Florida area on our side, on the Gulf side. I think Brevard County is coming, if I'm not mistaken, so we're proud of that. Lastly, on the legislation piece, at the state level, there was a bill passed, 910, earlier this year, which basically will expand the aperture of the admissibility of veterans coming into the court. And so, for those of you, and Mr. Dingfelder knows this very, very well, the current requirements for admissibility are good paper veterans. In other words, those that were honorably discharged. Long story short, 910 has opened up that aperture to all veterans to include bad conduct discharge or bad paper veterans. In April, I went and testified before the Florida State Appropriations Committee, and I outlined 4 specific reasons why that's really not such a wise idea. But if they want to go that direction, they need to have a response to then who's going to provide the medical support. Because the way it currently works in the VTC, you have to have good paper for the VA to then provide the benefits to you. Okay? If they're bad paper, the VA is not going to provide benefits to you. The VA is our 800-pound gorilla that provides all of our services. If you take them out, you have a gap of a lack of medical services. The Florida Senate did not have an answer to that. They just felt, well, you guys will figure it out. Okay, so right now the jury is out on that, and we've been working very hard here at the VTC to figure out when the time comes, 1 October, when this will take into effect. We're trying to figure out how we're going to handle the bad paper veterans that are coming in and how we're going to provide medical support to them. And then finally, and I know Councilman Vieira mentioned this, at the federal level, we're very excited because Charlie Crist is authoring H.R. 886. I went up 2 months ago to the White House. I actually briefed to Jennifer Corn, who's Trump's legislative director on this, and she's going to be instrumental in ensuring that both the lower and the upper chambers come to agreement and vote. Because what we want to do is we want to be able to get this bill passed and get it before the POTUS so he can sign it on Veterans Day. As you can see up there, the bottom line is it will federalize the VTC program. Currently, there are no federal funds for the VTCs. Okay? When we stood up over 6.5 years ago, we did it on a dime, and I think it was Judge Weiss's dime, to be quite honest. I was out there with a cup on Dale Mabry and Gandy saying, hey, I'll collect for the VTC. And so we've come a long way from that point, but now I think at the federal level they've recognized this. Hey, we need to have a hand in this. We need to help some of these struggling states that can't seem to get their sea legs underneath them and get their program going. And so we're excited about this. I will keep you all updated on this, but it is my hope by November that we're going to have a signing ceremony in the White House and we'll be able to help not just our VTC, but all the VTCs throughout the United States, and in essence, help all of our veterans. That's all I've got, subject to your questions. Thank you once again, City Council, for
Thank you, Colonel. Any questions or comments? Councilman Maniscalco, then Councilman Dingfelder.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation, and I'm glad to see that our American heroes are getting the assistance and the help that they need. I mean, you showed the numbers. You have so many suicides a day. You have those that struggle with addiction and whatnot. From the trauma of serving this country, the sacrifices that they've made, and I just I can't thank you enough. This is very impressive. I didn't realize how in depth the Veterans Treatment Court goes in assisting these heroes in whatever capacity they need. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Colonel. I have to say, my almost 30 years of practicing law, being in Veterans Court and across the hall in Mental Health Court, were some of the most personally rewarding and satisfying days of mine as an attorney and as a public defender. The work that you guys do in there, day in and day out, week in and week out, is just fantastic. And it's a whole team. We all work together. It's not elsewhere in the courthouse. It's the public defender against the state attorney, and everybody's kind of, a lot of animosity. But you go up in Veterans Court and everybody's working together for the sake of that client and to try and get that client back on track. And you're a key part of that, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Councilman Citro.
Colonel Reyes, I have attended one of your courts before, and it impressed me that these men and women who looked at both you and as Councilman Dingfelder said, and the opposing sides, actually looked at you and said, "I thought I was forgotten." And you and your mentors had helped them out, and when they finally have graduated, and said, "Thank you for remembering me. This is a great job you're doing, and the community thanks you for that."
Anyone else?
Thank you, sir.
And Colonel Reyes, thank you very much. As we know, the wounds of war and service go long beyond you're wearing the uniform. We know that, I always say it, 45 years, for example, after the Vietnam War, in my opinion, we're still having casualties from that war, from every war, from physical issues, whether it's Agent Orange or whether it's now we're seeing with the tar pits. And you've always been very involved in that issue. One of the reasons why I so strongly support what you've been doing and always try to shine a light on it is because we live in unique times. You know this better than anybody. Julie knows this better than anybody as your spouse. We've had almost 18 years of constant deployments by our military men and women. Whenever you read about a lot of folks now who are killed in action, you read their biographies and it always says, many times it says, they're on their 5th or 6th deployment. What does that do to our families? What does it do to our households? And what does it do to their psyche and well-being? Because when they take off that uniform, they're not done with the consequences, I guess, if you will, of that service. And that's where y'all come in. I would encourage everybody on Tampa City Council and everybody who's listening to attend one of the Veterans Treatment Courts. I've probably been 8, 9, 10 times, something like that, and it's always inspiring. It is, and especially when you see the mentors and the brotherhood and sisterhood that y'all have of working together as close friends and families. Y'all hang out together, y'all laugh together, y'all just have a great time because y'all have a bond that goes. It's a great bond, not just of service, but of how you interpret that service and going on and standing up for your brother and sister when they're in trouble. And that's something that we should all salute. So thank you so much for everything that you do, and I mean that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, next we move to public comment, and I was going to have Mr. Dials here for item, I think it is, for scheduling purpose, 63, come up after public comment, if that's okay with Tampa City Council. I would assume so. Sir. Of course, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to welcome our new city attorney who's walking around the back, Andrea Zellman. She was with the city and now has come back and now has been assigned to us. I think today is her first day working with us, so wanted to welcome her. 3 of us served with her on the Charter Review Commission, and so I think we all are excited to have her. And also thanks to Sal for his service to the city.
Yep, and a very good act of courtesy. Welcome, Andrea. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Okay, next we move forward to public comments. If anybody here to publicly comment on any item on the agenda excluding quasi-judicial matters, please come up at this time. 3 minutes an individual. If you're planning on speaking, please line up right there.
Good morning, Chairman. This is an off-the-agenda item. This is for a public hearing that was scheduled for September 19th at 10:30. It's a petition of review for 6303 Bayshore Boulevard, and the notice did not go out in time to perfect the ability for that to go forward. So I'm respectfully requesting a new hearing date be set so we can get the notice out.
Okay. What you got?
According to your agenda today, you've got 3 petitions for review being set for November 17th, or December 7th, or not December, October 17th, and I believe 1 in November.
Okay.
This would have to probably go out to the November date.
Okay. Is November amenable to your client, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It would be November 19th.
So moved.
Okay. November 17th?
It might be the 17th.
I couldn't hear it. 17th.
November 17th, so moved.
A time?
November, actually 21st.
Okay. There you go.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Citro. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And that time, please?
It's 10:30 a.m.
10:30?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Do you wish to vote on the motion?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you wish to vote on the motion?
Oh, did we? I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I could have sworn I did that. My apologies. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, council members. My name is Paul Curtis. I'm the president and founder of Khartoum Companies, a WMBE certified firm in the city of Tampa. I'm here to talk to you today about a non-agenda item This item has to do with the job order contracting civil site work, RFP 437-1119, which will come before this council at some point in the future. The reason I'm here is that we've been notified by the purchasing department that they plan on rendering our bid as non-responsive. And we take objection to that in connection with the letter that I sent to each one of you dated August 27. And to not reiterate the details of the letter, because the matter is eventually going to come before this council for a vote, I would simply say that the city of Tampa has a duty to identify and correct arithmetic errors if they find them in a bid. Secondly, I would say that clerical errors are correctable oversights, and that they cannot be the basis of a non-responsive determination. In any event, because of the language in the RFP document, this city council has the ability to make a decision other than what purchasing decided on the basis of the language in the RFP says that bids may be rejected. It does not say they must, it does not say they shall, it does not mean that they have to be rejected. So to not take up any more time, I would simply summarize as saying the city council has the ability to award us a contract. I am a 100% disabled military veteran. I am verified by the VA and certified by the state of Florida. And since I'm out of time, I would simply say there were only 3 bidders. No bidder is entitled to any number of dollars or work orders in connection with the bid. No one would be disadvantaged if we're awarded a contract. And so therefore, I think they should award a contract to all 3 firms, including us, because of the language in the RFP document. I appreciate your time. And when the matter finally comes up, I'll be here again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And before you go, Councilman Dingfelder.
Mr. Shelby?
Just to advise council that section 2-282 in your code has procurement protest procedures and a policy to be followed. That being said, I don't know whether the purchasing department is aware of your correspondence to city council.
Yes.
They are aware of it?
Yes.
And it has been, okay. So that being said, I just wanted to let you know up front about the code process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, sir. Mr. Curtis and I had a good meeting yesterday for about an hour, and we're talking not only about this particular bid, but about our entire MBE program. He's been doing MBE civil contracting all over the state and the country for many years, and is very knowledgeable on the subject. I'm not going to get into the details of this particular item. As Mr. Shelby said, or maybe they said on television, wouldn't be prudent. No, I think I was our president one day. But what I will say is when he brought this to my attention, and Mr. Goods also was very aware of it, I just so happened I was next meeting with the chief of staff, and I brought it to his attention. And I notified purchasing that I was doing that because I didn't want to blindside them. Chief of Staff was very interested. He was very, very interested, and he said he would dive deeper into it before this matter came back to council. So I'm optimistic that hopefully we can get a good resolution for everybody, especially the city, and maybe move forward in a positive direction. But we also want your continued input on how we can do a better job on MBE, and I think you're going to help us with some of that maybe tonight.
I plan on being here tonight. Last but not least, what I would say is if we're awarded a contract as we proposed, we would be in a position to hire up to 30 individuals. This does not consider what has come up since this job bid in July. Pipes has come up since then.
And if I may, sir, I'll give you 30 seconds to finish up.
We simply are trying to use the success that we have had over 3 decades to be able to assist some citizens and small firms that have not had the same opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman.
Next, Councilman Hughes.
Mr. Curtis, a lot of times I say that we don't know things to know things, but you enlightened myself, Mr. Dingfellow, to opportunities that maybe we're not looking at. I would say thank you very much for being persistent. Some people just give up sometimes because they feel, that roadblock is there, but I just want to thank you for not giving up. And again, Mr. Dingfellow is looking into it. Thank you, sir.
People have been telling me to give up for 30 years.
Thank you. And Councilman Goods knows about being persistent. Councilman Carlson.
I did not meet with you, and I don't know very much about your particular issue, but I know that the mayor and the chief of staff are looking at all the departments of the city, and purchasing is one that they're looking closely at to try to make improvements. And if you talk to the chief of staff and you all collectively have some recommendations on systemic policy changes that we can make, I think we would be open to hearing those as we go along. But I would, as the other said, I would suggest speaking to the chief of staff first if you can.
Okay, next, please.
Yes, my name is Pastor Frank Williams, located 1112 East Scott Street, and I've been coming down here for many years, but I don't seem to get no result. You notice I don't stand when they pledge allegiance to the flag because it's not all truthful. It talks about freedom and justice. We don't have no freedom and justice here, people of color. So I'm going to read some scripture to you all, which is Jesus Christ is saying. There's a lot of people don't like me because I'm a believer. But I don't hate them because they're non-believer. We're supposed to love each and everyone. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keepeth the saying of this prophet of this book. And I, John, saw these things and heard them. And when I had heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel which showed me these things. Then said unto me, see thou do it not, for I am that fellow servant and that brethren and the prophet, and them which keep the saying of this book, worship God. And he said unto me, seal not the saying of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to every man according to his work shall be. I'm Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, first and the last. Blessed are they that do this commandment, that they may have the right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gate unto the city. The reason I'm reading this scriptures here to you all, I know a lot of you all ain't going to pay no attention, but God's will be done. And God said this is himself. When he sent his words out, they will not come back void. Everything that God speak about, I guarantee God going to get the results of it. So we have to thank God for this day. And quit just looking at the color of people's skin and do justice for everybody. I've been located there at 1112 East Scott Street for 30 years, and I don't get no results. And I've been calling on you all to come and respect me and my people. They done blocked me in from getting to my parking lot. And so much thing. I was taking care of the poor and the hungry while y'all was sitting on your butt doing nothing. And I thank God that he's able me to do so. And you know what? We need to pray for one another. Don't just pray for the city council and county commission. Pray for everybody. Jesus Christ said we need to pray ye one for another. But we don't want to pray for Frank Williams, but I guarantee you I get results from Jesus Christ. Thank him for his many blessings.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Good morning, Ellen Snelling. I'm the board chair of the Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance and also the mother of a daughter in recovery And I just wanted to comment on the Veterans Treatment Court that was brought up earlier, that, it's an excellent resource for our county. My daughter graduated from a different treatment court, the juvenile drug court. So I'm very supportive of the treatment courts here, and I think we're blessed in our county to have so many to help our citizens. The Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance is a nonprofit whose mission is to prevent youth substance abuse. We're located at 2815 East Henry Avenue. The reason I'm giving you the address is that we were informed that across the street, about a block and a half down, there's a medical marijuana processing center and dispensary that wants to get a permit. We're concerned about this business because it'd be located near substance abuse and mental health treatment facilities, residential housing units, Easter Seals office, daycare, schools.
And, ma'am, just,
Yes.
yes, and thank you, Councilman Dingfelder. Is that quasi-judicial?
Is that something that's going to be coming before City
Not-
Council?
Not that I know of. I believe it's all being handled administratively.
And I think she may be right, because I think I heard about this.
Okay.
I think I heard
That'll
about
be fine.
this.
Okay. And if otherwise, I mean, certainly she can talk about it. It's not set on today's agenda, and if it's something that we have to deal with, then we'll talk about the corrective action if
Thank
it
you.
does come to here.
Thank you. Good call, Councilman Dingfelder. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, thank you. There was a notice that you could get citizens' input, but as far as we know, we got a letter coming back saying that it was approved administratively. We have youth groups, students working against tobacco, and youth making a difference that meet and hold events at our office. We feel like having a marijuana processing plant and dispensary right across the street basically would send the wrong message to these students. Medical marijuana is a cash-only business. Combination of large amounts of cash, large amounts of drug can attract crime that would endanger residents and surrounding facilities. There's also concerns about traffic. Henry Avenue is a pretty narrow road. It's just 2 lanes, railroad track, and there would be a great deal of traffic once this place would open. The proposed medical marijuana processing center is not compatible with a residential kid-friendly neighborhood and may lead to increased health and safety risks for children and families. We would like to try to stop Trulieve from building this facility. The processing plant, according to your ordinance, can be up to 100,000 square feet, so we're talking about 2 different buildings. One would be processing and one would be the dispensary. If you cannot stop them from coming into this lower income neighborhood that have a lot of children-related types of organizations, we would like to ask if there's some way to prevent something like this happening in the future and to give citizens a voice. If they don't want these kind of facilities in their neighborhood, then I believe we should be able to come here and talk to you about it and try to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Hi there, my name is Susan Morgan, and I am with Grace Point, and we are located at 5707 North 22nd Street. And we have been in that location for 70 years. And for those of you that may not be familiar with us, we are a mental health and substance abuse treatment provider. In addition to an array of other services in terms of primary health care, we have a detox facility on our campus. I'll share a little bit more about that. I'm here today in regard to Trulieve wanting to open a medical marijuana processing and distribution facility right next door to Grace Point, and that address is 2614 East Henry Avenue. Now, I understand there may be nothing in place at this point in time to prevent them from opening at this location, but we're coming before you today just to bring some awareness to say how can we better plan for our city in the future and perhaps relook at what we have put in place in terms of ordinances or other measures that maybe we can put in place so they are not co-located or in close proximity to residential properties, schools, children, and mental health facilities. So I brought my show and tell for today. I'm sorry, I know normally they have this thing here. But if I can just show you, just in case you're not familiar with this particular street, from 22nd to 30th Street, Grace Point has 21 acres along that corridor. And in between there's 2 residential supportive housing properties that we, Grace Point, have worked in collaboration with DDA Development to bring $30 million from Tallahassee through the tax credit program to provide affordable housing. That is something we're bringing to the city. Didn't cost the city, didn't cost the county. So we're giving back. and it provides housing for folks in a very manner that they wouldn't be able to acquire elsewhere. We are also one of 9 central receiving facilities across the state. We have one of a few mobile crisis centers across the state of Florida, so we're happy to be able to provide these services. But along this street, there's also 2 schools that are on either end. We have East Henry Academy, and we have Carver Middle School on the other end. We also have Easter Seals, a daycare across the street, and Head Start. In addition to all the residential that surrounds this property, it averages about 1,000 residents. So you say, you're probably like me, what does it really mean? How does this impact? I started researching because I wasn't sure myself. And I looked at other states and what they have in place, and they have pretty comprehensive rules and regulations and vicinity requirements. In the city of Tampa, at this point, the only restriction is 500 feet from a school. Both the schools that I mentioned are just outside 500 feet. So I think in our city, we care about people and the wellness of folks, and we want everybody to be able to, live and work together, but we need to do it in a respectful manner.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
If I can just make one final comment, I know I'm
10
so.
seconds.
Thank you. And we're just asking for staff, for the city council to ask staff to please explore options that the city has going forward, how we can manage
Thank you,
these
ma'am.
sites.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, I'm Teresa Miller, and I'll be brief. I just thought it would help if you guys had a visual as to actually what has been going on in our state since marijuana has been legalized as medicine. And just this past year, because smokable marijuana was allowed, we've had over a 33% increase of people who have registered that they need this medication. And I honestly use that term loosely. In Tampa, when I went on the website this morning and counted, we already have 19 places that can dispense marijuana, and that's official. I'm going to just guess some of the other places that are advertising that they have CBD. No one tested it. It's not FDA approved, so you never really know what you're getting from those little shops, smoke shops and all. And 10 locations this past month have already been added to statewide. So I'm just concerned that we really don't need any more of these places, especially near a school. So on my chart, you can just see, I just put some information because, 1 ounce of marijuana doesn't sound like much. And I used 70 joints is what it makes. Some places I found when I went on all sorts of websites said 50 and some said 90. So this is really sort of right in the middle. It could be more or less. And you can see, if you look down here at the Florida, how much was dispensed. Just in a week, over 10,000 ounces. That's a lot of marijuana. So I was just giving you some information and some resources so that you could better understand how this is impacting our community. And on the back side, I went to the Know the Facts website just so you could see. And True Leave, I believe, is the one that wants to add yet another marijuana place in our city. I didn't count how many are in Tampa, but overall there's 19 in the Tampa Bay area. And I just want to say, I know I've been here in the past and I'm still absolutely against marijuana, but I feel like people look at it as we're not compassionate, and nothing could be further from the truth. I spend my life helping save lives of people from addiction. And marijuana, if you ever go to any treatment center, is the #1 drug that led people there. And you can see what's happening around our nation as marijuana has been legalized. So however we can help give you the truth about really what's happening, I'll be glad to help. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Connie Burton. In the prayer of saying how great this country is, I want you to be reminded that we're looking at 400 years of it not being so great as it relates to African people. 246 years of direct slavery, followed by Jim Crowism, followed by lynching, followed by redlining, followed by killing our children, followed by mass incarceration. That's all here in America. all of it. And on top of that, the gall of anybody in administration that will even consent to allowing a dispensary to come in the heart of a community that has been impacted by so many young black men and women going to prison. Why? For touching marijuana. 1,000 feet of your neighborhood, if you lived in public housing, the whole family had to go. By this administration and the now mayor that was the police chief, ran our community dry, right? Because marijuana was the scourge. Now marijuana is becoming the trinkling of young capitalists' dream that is now their white gold. Right in the heart of our community. I'm glad these women's down here, because I called my city councilman and I want to know, because it's being rumored and we are fearful. We haven't seen not one vacation of any of these drug arrests as it relates to marijuana, and now people got on new blinders that they don't see it as the crime of all crimes. If it come, it will be a problem. If it rests in East Tampa, it will be a problem. If you think it's good, take it to Bayshore. Because it's not good for us. Not until we rectify the wrongs of the past. We want our damn people out of these incarceration Holocaust camps called prisons based on that drug. I don't care who's smoking, but do right what's right. Secondly, we keep talking about affordable housing. I looked at the mayor's budget and I don't see anything in there that relates to all the promises made, everything that you all said when you came to our community. I don't know if people is making their legacy count now or if they already in preparation for the next cycle of elections, because they bring one damn thing to our community. We want working class, affordable housing for all of the men and women that work at the fast food stops, that take care of your mamas when they come to the nursing home, to the child care stop. We want dignity for people that have low wage income.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Goods.
I am quite upset and disturbed of the calls that I received in reference to this possible facility. I don't know if you gentlemen know of that street. That street has a lot of caring folks that do good in our community. We have several schools on that street. We have a police communications on that street and fire rescue on that street. You got Easter seals, you got drug addiction places on that street. And I don't know what the rule is or the zoning or what have you, but I'm going to ask the staff bring us a report in reference to what's being built, in reference to this facility, and also to look into where these facilities are being put. Now, saying to put this in East Tampa, right at 22nd, in the heart of that, that's a problem for me. And I don't know if we could stop that or not. I don't know the implications, but that's a problem, and I'm going forward. I'd like to see staff come out with a report in reference to the use of these facilities within the boundaries, and we may need to look at coming up with some type of ordinance to prevent these type of things from happening. If I can get the...
Yes, sir. And we have a second, and usually I'm not a big fan of making motions during public comment, but I'll let this one, that's fine. And Councilman and Citro, and before Councilman Goods, do you want a report or staff to come here personally, or both?
Both.
Okay, just so we specify.
Would that be on, would you like it September 19th?
Yes, sir. Next meeting.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilman Goods, I totally agree with you. I believe we have a workshop coming up on zoning as far as spaces between Chapter 14, AB sales, between schools and religious places. But I do agree with you. This is an epidemic that's waiting to happen. And right now, zoning is that it can be put there. I think we really need to look at zoning, especially on these type of things. Why not just have these things in industrial areas where there's no schools, there's no residences? If you want to go, you can go. If you want to get it, you can go get it. But keep it away from areas like this on 22nd Street, which is next to Grace Point, which is next to schools, which is next to housing, which is next to residential. Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, please.
Morning. Name is Monteznot, and the concern always have to be for African people. The big word we as Africans have to know and understand and really be passionate about is reparations. 600 years, which is equivalent to $600 trillion. 600 years, which is equivalent to $600 trillion. They can't stop that over there. They can't stop Casper and Bayshore for putting a recreational alcohol serving bar or whatsoever they're going to do. They're not going to stop it anywhere else. And it's not because it can't be stopped. It's because these deals are made beforehand and they just put in place. They can't stop the man down here. They can't stop Vinnick down here at Channelside. They can't stop nobody. They can't stop Morgan and Morgan, who's pushing marijuana on the people and saying they defending them on the other hand. They can't stop none of that. They can't get our men, women, and children out of prison who's incarcerated for marijuana and other drugs that white people use freely and never touch the back of a police car, never even see a handcuff over. So it's a contradiction that's taking place. It's a real contradiction. And we as African people have to know and understand that. They couldn't stop the liquor stores on every corner inside the African community. It's a liquor store. It's a bar. It's places that's advertising tobacco products. Alcohol, drugs, alcohol, and tobacco, that's king when cotton was king, and we're always the victims of it. We're always the victims of it. And you know, it's something you have to understand about this city council. And you have to understand about these people. When the police officers are up here and when the fire department is up here getting awards, they interrupt all in between. There's no regulations, there's no rules, there's no procedure, there's no anything. But when the working class people or business people or homeless people take their time to come down here and sacrifice their time, they have no dignity and no respect for us. Absolutely, positively none. You interrupt us when we speak. You say the people can't chair. They can't make comments. They can't respond. They can't do anything. Like we're in the Politburo somewhere. It's a proletariat that we operate under. And if Caesar don't like what you say, Caesar going to put you out. They're going to have the police arrest you. They're going to do all this. And it's a political atmosphere. That's what it is. And you have 3 minutes to speak. And you try to even quiet the audience. But when the officers are up here, y'all cheering and doing this and doing that and doing all that, man, it's wrong, it's disgraceful. And it's the hate that y'all have for African people. It's the hate that y'all have for advancement. And it's the hate and intolerance. Y'all always claim this inclusiveness, but it's a special hate y'all have for people that you feel can't represent themselves.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, please.
Good morning. My name is Ernest Johnson, and I want to finish the issue about the marijuana dispensary in East Tampa. One of you asked what is a ruling or statute that doesn't allow such a thing in that community. And section 227-240 East Tampa Overlay District Design Standards does not allow that type of building in that zone at all, because to protect a dispensary, it has to be built a certain way. It has to be secured a certain way. It has to have certain standards that the East Tampa Overlay District Design Standards does not allow. Section 27240, it does not allow that kind of construction, that kind of building in that area at all. Despite the obvious about how close it is to the schools, the design, the security of such a building is not approved by the East Tampa Overlay in that area. And I think you all know this, but if you don't know it, you just look it up. And like the Sister Bird said, you bring the liquor store, you bring all of this tragedy to the neighborhood, and then you lock our kids up when they drive down the street for a joint, and now they got a record and stuff like this. I just want to touch on that issue, but I represent the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, and we're the group that helped pass Amendment 4 last year to return the voting rights to 1.4 million ex-felons. We call ourselves returning citizens. We're not ex-anything because we participated in the arrest, the conviction, the trial, and we did our sentence, and now we're returning to society. and we're returning with nothing. And this is the core reason why people return to prison. They have nowhere to go. I'm proposing that a council meeting set up an exploratory commission to see about public housing, any kind of housing for returning citizens. Because this revolving the door, locking you up and throwing you on the street with $50, it has to stop. Most of these guys, if you give them a chance to catch themselves once they leave prison, or if it's just public housing for 6 months or a year, but we proposing tiny house building and villages for these guys. Because although I've been to prison and stuff, I own home, I own lots and buildings, but I am not the average returning citizen. They return to nothing, they have nothing, and the city have nothing for them. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement just put out a report that Hillsborough County in the last couple of years sent more people to prison consistently, week by week, month by month, 12-month period, than all the other 67 counties put together. This county should offer something to a returning citizen besides talking about go down to the sheriff's office and give me a recent picture of you and an address or phone number. We need something
Thank you very much,
for these guys.
I'll give you 15 seconds to finish if you want to finish your thoughts.
What I'm proposing is an exploratory commission, a county commission, for public housing, tiny house housing, anything that can catch these people when they leave prison. Something that'll give them a toehold, say, well, listen, I'll go get me a McDonald's job because I can afford tiny housing. Might even afford to own the tiny housing.
Thank you
but
very
this
much.
on the street and in the bushes, it has to stop.
Thank you very
sir.
much, sir. We appreciate it. Next, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council. My name is John Grandoff. My address is Suite 3700 Bank of America Plaza, and I've had the honor of serving on the board of Grace Point Wellness for nearly 10 years. And I urge you to look at gracepointwellness.org and understand their mission and the success they've accomplished in our community for the very challenged mentally ill citizens of our city and our county. This is literally the safety net for many people, the lifeline. We spent an incredible amount of resources and time to build the Graham dormitory, and I ask you to go look at the Graham on Henry Street off of 22nd Street and see what a beautiful structure it is and what a welcoming facility is for our underprivileged citizens suffering from mental challenges. This facility has been permitted immediately next door. They share a common boundary line. Susan Morgan provided to me the notice that was issued, and to describe what was going on, it was indicated as MM processing and distribution. Now, what is that? Do you know what that is? I don't know what that is. Someone also put in writing.
Mr. Grandoff, just 1 second, if you could stop this time.
Chairman,
Mr.
I'm not a lawyer, and I understand what's going on, and I'm sitting here, I'm listening, and just from being here a little bit longer than all, telling me that we keep discussing this, we're going to get in a hole we're never going to come out of. If there's a case that comes before us and we have to vote, and all this is being said today, and the other party's not here, I know what you're talking about, but I wish we weren't discussing in case it comes here, because if not, whatever you think they're not going to get, they're going to get, even if they don't get it.
If they get it fair and square.
I'm not saying that, sir. I'm not here to dispute anything you're going to say, but you're much smarter in law than I am, and you know right now we're teetering on some violation.
I'll reserve my comments, Mr. Miranda. I merely want to put the notice issue on record, and I ask that the city staff be instructed to report to the council
And
about
I
this
appreciate
matter.
it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Grandoff. Thank you, Councilman Miranda. Next, please.
And since we're speaking about marijuana, there was another marijuana law, and I'm not here to pat anybody on the back or anything else. One about 20 grams. You can carry 20 grams, and you can't buy it and you can't sell it. Well, if you can't buy and you can't sell it, how'd you get it? That's number one. And the second part of that law said that the first time they caught anyone with it, you get slapped in the hand, nothing happened. But the second time you got caught with it, over 20 grams, or smoking it, I guess, you had a $450 fine. But it didn't stop there. So the second and third and fourth and fifth and 1,000 times you got caught with it, you got fined $450. Well, that sounds great. There's only one problem. What about if you didn't have the $450? That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, go ahead.
All right, good morning, City Council Chair and all the entire City Council. I want to address public comment on
And if I may we have your name?
Yep, a different topic. My name is Julie Reyes, and I'd like to comment on City Councilman Vieira's plan for the all-inclusive, all-accessible public parks. I'm coming to you today as a Tampa resident, as a mother in the community, as a military spouse, a family that located here, and we retired here. We love our Tampa Bay city, our Tampa Bay community, and everything that it's doing to improve our community at every level, particularly the parks. What I want to talk about, I'm a mother of 4. I have an older daughter, I actually have 2 grandchildren, and I have triplets, one of whom is diagnosed with autism. I want to tell you my experience as a mother and the need and the importance of parks for all of our citizens, for all of our children, for all of our communities and families. It was at a park where my son, who was struggling with social connections, with sensory issues, had the opportunity time and time again to go to a park with therapists, with family, with friends, with his sisters, to work on his skills, at times to go on a swing. I can't tell you the number of hours and months and days that we worked with him to the day that he slid down the sliding board by himself. The times where we walked with him hand in hand and practiced walking hand in hand so that he wouldn't endanger himself and run away. And we did that in our parks. To the times where we practiced social skills of saying, hi, my name is, how are you? Do you want to play? And this can only happen in parks that are inclusive and accessible to all of our children. We have to have these opportunities as parents, as members of the community. Our therapists use the parks. Our school teachers and professionals and we ourselves use the parks. We use them for birthday parties. We use them for everyday use or just a relief. And as a parent and as a mother, we use those parks to connect. We connect with other parents. We connect with other kids. We learn and we network and we work together. So I'm urging you guys today, as you listen to Councilman's proposal and the plan, that you consider this funding strongly. And look at what we need to do to get these parks accessible, inclusive, and maintain these parks so that all can use these parks.
Thank you very much, Julie. We appreciate your coming from the heart. Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next we move forward. Are there any requests by the public for reconsideration of any legislative matters? There being none, we're going to move before the consent to item 63. And also, we have staff here as well for items, if it's the pleasure of council to go forward, items 62, 66, and as well as 15, 44, and 45. I know Ms. Duncan's here after Mr. Dial. If it's the pleasure of council to move forward, we can take that up after this one. And I want to speak briefly, if I may, about why I brought this forward with Mr. Dial. I think this is a very, very important issue. It's a very important step. And this is something that is for all of Tampa, East Tampa, North and New Tampa, South Tampa, West Tampa, because all of our parts of our city have needs whenever it comes to their special needs families, and we ought to focus on that. I think it's a really important issue. So I thank you, Mr. Dial, for you and your committees, your department's work on this, because I know you all have put in some time. So I just wanted to publicly thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Go
Thank you,
ahead,
council.
sir.
As I start off here, if I could, I have Raquel Panko with us today, and she is the specialist. She's actually our ADA coordinator for the city. So if there's anything that I'm getting a little off on specifics to this, she could speak to those things for us as we start out. I just want to, I guess, start by saying that we thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue. With our parks, it is I know it's the goal of the mayor of the city of Tampa, the goal of the Parks and Recreation Department to provide recreation amenities that are available to all of our residents. And we continue to strive to do that. We are looking at this as a time where we're with new opportunities and looking at the vision that the mayor is going to have into the future for us, and to look where these improvements can be part of that process. So we're very encouraged about that, excited about the opportunity. I'm going to start off, if I could, with this of showing an overhead here.
Backwards. Turn it.
Oh, sorry about that.
There we go.
There we go. That would be better. Let's see. Let's slide it down a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to refer to this graph as we go along here, these graphs. And if we could start, if you look at the graph on the left-hand side, and I'll talk about each of these features, it says current accessible route to playground. We did do an analysis of really 3 major different factors. When you look at the current accessible route to playground, that does not mean the playground itself. It means someone that might be pulling up in a parking lot and getting from there to the playground. Are there any issues they have as far as that accessibility of getting to that location? There can be things such as sidewalk cuts that might not be there or might not be appropriate. It could be the path width that is to the playground. It could be the slopes are at a grade that isn't accurate. We have a grade of 5% or less for any path, and it might be that at some point you have something that's over that grade. So while you have the sidewalk, you don't have the slope that's appropriate for that. And the right material underneath is a firm surface for the path. So all of those are some of the examples of things that you have with the current accessible route to the playground, because the first issue is can they get to the playground at the location? The second is looking at the current accessible play features. Well, and let me back up. So you can see from the line there that we have 29 of 79. There are 79 playgrounds that are here with the city. Of those, 29 currently have that access in all those locations. Now, I would say there are 79 parks with playgrounds. Some parks have multiple playgrounds with them, but there are 79 parks that we have in our system that have playgrounds. So we have 29 currently that meet that criteria. The second point is current accessible play features. And what that's saying is, are there play features that are at wheelchair level, or someone with some mobility issues, being able to have some play features that are at the level within the playground, where there are tactile play features and different things like you'll see like the tic-tac-toe or different things that you turn, a lot of different activities to where if you have mobility issues, you would have access to those play features at a ground level, being number one. It could also be to where there might be a ramp on the playground that gets you to a level where you have access to those features, or it could be that the playground is totally accessible to someone with any challenges. So that's the second grouping, and you can see on that out of our 79, we have 47 that are currently at the accessible level, and 32 that still have some that don't have those features all at ground level. The third area is playground surfacing. And when you look at playground surfacing, sometimes people might see the playground and they think we've got mulch in the playground. Actually, it's called an engineered wood fiber. It's very specific to playgrounds. It has, if you walk on it, you can tell there's a different absorption with that, and it's so that it can deal with any falls that happen. So we only get that from a couple of different companies that have that available, and it is a certified material that we use for where you see what we call the wood carpet or wood fiber, engineered wood fiber with that. The second option with that is a poured in place. And you've seen in some of our locations the rubberized surface that is there. The rubberized surface is many times people like that. It's much smoother. It's very attractive. It stays very neat. But the cost of that is substantially more. It's probably, the engineered wood fiber is probably 25% of the cost of a port in place. So all of those are things that are taken into account. We are at a point of looking at the goal again of meeting these needs, and the goal of moving the gold color that you see there all to blue is where we would like to be, obviously, with this. And to that end, there are some things that are going on that are good news to make you aware of. Right now, we have within our CIP, we have $250,000 that is for ADA issues within parks that we're working through in our CIP. And that's why I gave you the second graph with each one. If you look back at the first one where it says current accessible routes to playgrounds, then it says status April 2020. Within the next 6 months, we anticipate that 8 more playgrounds will be online with improvements to that. So you see that the number of the access goes from 37 to 42 because there's different improvements that are made at each of those locations. So you can see that that improves to where we're close to 50% in that area. It doesn't bring any new play features, so that doesn't change when you look at the graph again from there. It's still 47. When you look at the locations that don't have the right surfacing, we only have one, and that is taken care of as part of this. So you see that we have that goal, as you see, of the 79 for all the surfacing that would be completed through all the park system. We have the $250,000 this year. That's to look at play features, but it's also to look at other ADA compliance issues in parks. You might have a water fountain that you need better access to, a walkway within the park to a shelter, different things along that line. So those, this year we have the $250,000. We do have dollars that have been requested in FY20 as well to continue this process. So it is a work in process, and it's something that we have a goal to move forward and continue to improve this. I do also want to mention we have one playground that a lot of people probably are familiar with the Freedom Playground at McFarland Park. That is probably our top line of accessible playground that we have at this point. It is having an expansion done with it that has been approved before. We are in design. We're very close to completing the design. We anticipate that that will be under construction later this year, and that's about a $400,000 construction project for that. So that is a destination playground that we have that will be expanding, and we're looking forward to that improvement. That's coming along as well. And then finally, I did want to mention, I know that a master plan is something that's being looked at and considered right now. I would say from a Parks and Recreation professional perspective, that potential of the master plan process is a great help to something along this line of looking where those needs are and zeroing in on where those needs are in the community to bring things to a level that that we're all pleased with in the parks. So that is, in general, the information we have to date. Again, it's a work in progress, but we're excited about moving forward and continuing to improve.
Thank you. Councilman Goodson, I had a few questions, but go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you for your leadership as regards to bringing this to the forefront, and humbled that the mayor saw a need to try to put that in the budget. I guess when I'm looking at the diagrams, I don't have enough meat. I see a diagram here, but I guess I was looking for this presentation to identify the parks in the city and identify those parks that have special needs already in the city, and also to look at where the Parks and Recreation feels that the need to put these special needs facilities or playground equipment. So that's what I was looking for, especially in the East. And I know Mr. Chairman is a big proponent of autism and disabilities, and I mentioned that when we first got him, when he brought the foundation to talk about that. East Tampa have challenges too, and we have a lot of kids. So I guess I was looking for me, is to identify, we have 4 districts. Where are the autism parks, or what do we have for our kids with disabilities. So that's what I'm looking for. So I appreciate the presentation, but for me, it's just not giving me what I really need to understand where we need to go, sir.
I will, if I could add, we did do an analysis of all of the playgrounds, so that we have those. We simply gave the total of where we were with the city and not breaking those down. We have that information of which parks are in need of those improvements. So, that could be provided. As far as the priority, this was an analysis of where we are, a snapshot in time. It wasn't a recommendation of where to go first. Now, our staff, as we continue to make these improvements with the $88, we're looking at the ones that are in the most, in professional opinion, that are in the most need at the time of, particularly if there's safety issues or something along that line as well with that. I would also note, if I could, the second grouping that we have of accessible play features in the existing playgrounds, they are not out of compliance as they are now. It's kind of like when you do something with your house and then you make an improvement, it would be required to make those improvements and add those features if a new playground went in the future with that. With that being said, we very much want to have things available, and I know the mayor, wants things to be available to all of our residents, and our goal would be to provide it so that it's available to all of our parks.
Okay, and we have, I want to ask a few questions to Councilman Citro, then Councilman Carlson, then Councilman Dingfelder. Do we have a monetary cost and how much this would cost, a rough estimate, a ballpark? Because I know it is a significant number.
Yes, we did some review of that, and basically for the first issue of the accessible route to the playground, it is a range because there's different things you can do with equipment. There's different levels of equipment that you can purchase. But we had a range of in the range of $250,000 to $480,000 to complete that accessibility to the playground, to where that one would be all blue. I'll say. As far as the accessible play features, which again, we aren't out of compliance at this time, but would like to do the play features, then you really get into a range. There's a piece of equipment that would meet the criteria that might be $15,000. There's a piece of equipment that could be $50,000. So it's really what you decide to put in those locations, and we have that with the features of being $480,000 to $1.1 million, depending on what you would like to do. That would be with those features included.
So top global range, 1.5, 1.6 million.
The other side of that, if you're expanding and adding those new play features, now you have surfacing that's required underneath of that. And if you add that surfacing, that is another between $160,000 and $550,000 because you'd be getting the equipment, and now you have to have the surfacing to go below because you're expanding that playground.
Yes. Okay.
So you would add that.
Okay. And I'll go ahead, Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of all the parks in the city that have pools, how many of those pools are wheelchair accessible, not only to get to the pool, but for the people that are disabled in wheelchairs can get in the pool?
I know that many have I'll say the transfer station. I would have to get that number for you. I don't have that with you today, but I know that I've seen several of the transfer stations at our pools.
I would like to see that happen. And in the future, we're looking at two different pools that are being, let's just say, investigated. Goss and Lopez pool. Can we make sure that in the future, if those come to fruition, that they have wheelchair accessible?
Yes, sir.
I would still like to hear it from Mr. Dow here. Thank you for that.
Councilman Carlson.
I just wanted to see if I could get a 30-second update from you on Vila Brothers Park. I think there was a big groundbreaking in April, I think, and has anything been done since then?
Yes, it is under construction right now. We're anticipating to be done somewhere. We're looking at somewhere next month with this phase being completed.
With the outdoor bathroom?
That's correct. Okay. And there's some other improvements to the memorial there, as well as some sidewalk that's going in there as well. And there are some dollars in the proposed budget for that park as well for shade structure, I believe.
Mr. Maniscalco, did you say outdoor bathrooms?
Yes, sir.
We know what he meant.
Standalone restroom.
We know what he meant.
Yeah,
I was a little
actually,
concerned.
not like a tree or.
Okay.
Okay, nothing
Just
else?
teasing you.
Okay, Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Paul. In regard to the master plan, I think this is a good discussion. In regard to the master plan, when we did McFarland Park back in the early 2000s, Stephanie Buzanski, I want to give her a shout out. She had raised about $100,000 of private money, but she kind of got stalled at a certain point, and because it was, I don't know, $400,000 or $500,000 project just to start it, and now we're adding to it, and I think that's fantastic. But that's only one district. That's McFarland Park, Mr. Maniscalco's district. We have 3 other districts that effectively don't have a big, healthy ADA park. My personal opinion is the need is huge. Every park should be totally up to standard. Not just to standard, beyond standard, to be totally ADA accessible, as Ms. Reyes indicated, have all those types of features that are needed. But I think it's unrealistic at this point to say we can do all of our 100 parks in that way. I think it would be better if our master plan focuses and says, and I think somebody mentioned this earlier, let's have at least one, I think you did, Mr. Goods, let's have at least one really great park like McFarland Park in each of our 4 districts. And then at least that way, those families who need that, who have a child in a wheelchair or otherwise other types of special needs, they know that they can get in their car or whatever and drive over to that park, and it's not going to be, maybe it'll be within 5 miles or so. So they don't have to drive all the way down to McFarland. So right now, I think we're short 3 parks for 3 districts. And I'd love to see that when our master plan comes back. Thank you, sir.
We'll take
Councilman Goods.
Just a few more. Touching on pools, I'm hearing, is Cascading up and running? Because I'm hearing the pool has cracks in it again. Is that true or is that false?
Cascaded is operational, yes.
Okay. Tell me about DeSoto. Why? I'm hearing, I was at a community meeting, and I'm constantly hearing that the pool is always closed at DeSoto Park.
And if I may interrupt, let's try to stay on topic to what he was here for. I mean, we can deal with those issues later if you want to do that
I haven't had a
question.
report back from that. I requested that a while ago, and I haven't had a report back on that, about that pool. That's why I'm asking, Mr. Chairman.
If you want to ask, but from now on, let's try to stay on topic for what we're here for.
Yes, we can provide that information. It is open, but it is now on the fall hours, so it is more limited than it is during the summer, and that might be what you'd heard, where people used to certain hours and it's cut back from there, but I'll be glad to provide that information to you of the hours in the fall and the different seasons.
And the last thing, regards to, I always hear that we're doing a study, and I hear these numbers about the studies. Who's giving us these analysis of these costs for these studies? Is that in-house or is that outsourced out? How are we getting these numbers?
We have capital staff, professional staff that deal with engineering firms and putting scopes out on these throughout the year, and we rely on their expertise with that. And it is coordinated with our other departments in the city that deal with construction as well.
So we solely just don't have our people just doing this. We have to outsource these studies.
Without question, this will be something that would need to be done by a consultant for this. This is a massive master plan undertaking, and we would need the expertise, in my opinion, of a consulting firm to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to really thank you guys for all your work. This is something that means a lot to people. You take Mrs. Reyes, who just came forward. Her son, Christian, is probably, 12? Yes. 12 years old. And, he's passed, for the most part, parks, very likely. She didn't come up here because she wants a park for her son. She came up here because she remembers when her son was 2 or 3 years old and what that meant to her. When I speak to my mom about it, my oldest brother's mentally disabled. This is something that obviously moves her. Juan, my oldest brother, is 48 years old. He's not going to be at a park. Maybe he could, but he's probably not going to be at a park. This is something that moves people because they think about that parent who today is going to get the diagnosis from their doctor saying that your son or daughter is autistic, or your son or daughter is going to have cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, an intellectual disability, whatever it is, and we got to stand with them. We got to stand with them 110%. When I look at the numbers put forward here today, this is something that's very, very doable. if we're really, really going to get behind it and take seriously the experiences. And this woman, Mrs. Reyes, who's a friend who put her heart on the line out there talking about her experience with her son. You don't get more personal than that, and I respect that 110%. And that's why I'm proud to fight for this. And I do agree that all of our districts should have large parks that are accessible specifically to people with special needs. About 2 years ago, we got funding for the design for the so-called autism park in the new Tampa area. We're going to see that through, and it's certainly something that's important. You know, I don't have the numbers on how many kids have special needs, intellectual disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of us, it doesn't pop in our mind because it doesn't immediately affect us. We maybe don't have a sibling or a son or daughter or a grandchild who is autistic or who has Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, et cetera. But it should matter to us because it matters to those parents. That's what solidarity, that is what empathy, and that is what compassion is all about. And I believe that a budget is a moral document. And whenever it comes to our city budget, I want to see in the next few years us tackle this. This isn't a big thing to tackle, all things considered, whenever it comes to the monetary amount, when you compare it to the benefit that our families are going to get from this. So I wanted to thank you guys for putting this report together. We look forward, I know all 7 of us do, look forward to seeing you carry this out and encouraging you all along the way. So thank you guys very much.
Could I just say, having Raquel and the coordination that we have there, she definitely keeps an eye on what we're doing and has that in mind. So it's great to have someone with the background that's looking at that as well. So we appreciate that coordination as well.
And we appreciate Raquel. We've worked together on a lot of great things, including our autism-friendly city initiative, and you really wear your heart on your sleeve. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, next, and I'm going to okay, that's fine. Okay, next we're going to move to, is anything being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
15, 44, and 45 is what I heard.
Okay. Okay, 1544. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the consent agenda, if I may. Councilman Citro, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move items 3 through 5 with the substitute resolution on number 3.
Okay. Second. We have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next, Councilman Goods.
Chair, items 6 through 13.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Councilman Dingfelder with items 14, 16 through 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move items 14, excluding 15, items 16 through 23.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder.
And a quick comment.
Oh, yes, sir, go ahead.
In regard to item 18, I'm not going to pull it, but I had a comment. I was in conversation with Mr. Spearman and Mr. Hart in regard to MBE on this type of item. This is citywide janitorial services. It's a big contract to a big company for $1.2 million. And I said, what I asked Greg was, I said, well, you know, and it only has about a 15% minority participation. And I said, well, why don't we do this as a sheltered bid? And basically, for next year. And basically, his answer was we could. We'd need to unbundle it into smaller pieces, so it's not 1.2 million, it might be 4 different bids of 300,000 each, or 300,000 each, and then they could possibly do it sheltered. So I'm not going to hold this one up. Obviously, we need janitorial services immediately to continue, but I'm going to pursue this and see if we can unbundle that for more minority participation. So with that, I'll move those items mentioned previously.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next, Councilman Miranda, items 24 through 29. And let's first, if I may, Councilman, do you mind moving item 25 so I can exempt myself from that?
No, not at all.
Thank you, sir.
Move item number 25.
We have a motion by, and I'll pass the gavel to you.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda with a second from Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
May I have a...
Mr. Chairman, item 26,
I'm sorry,
27,
One
28.
second, if I may.
Mr. Miranda, I'm sorry.
That item 25 would be our abstain.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Item 26, 27, 28 were the three individuals that were, appeared before us last council. We approved them. These were just ratifying their appointments to the appointments that they, positions that they applied for. But let me move items 24 through 29, and 25 was taken care of. 26, 27, 28 are the individuals that appeared before us, and we're ratifying their appointments to the different boards.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, a second by Councilman Citro. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Miranda, for bringing that forth, and for the record that those resolutions have been filed with the clerk.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Councilman Carlson.
I move items 30 through 40.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much,
Excluding
Mr.
44
Chairman.
and 45.
I move items 41, 2, and 3, and item 46.
We have a motion, second, anyone?
And these are the substitute resolutions on number 41.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we move onward to items that are being pulled, and I'm sorry, that was 16, Councilman Dingfelder?
May we move 47 to 49? Those are the ones that are being asked.
Second.
On hearing for consent.
Okay. Okay.
October 24th is wrong, it's the 17th on item 29, 49.
Okay. Do I have a motion then for 47, 48, and 49? Yes. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is anyone here for item, is it 15? 15.
Good morning, City Council members. Item 15 is regarding a $75,000 grant that we received from the Department of Environmental Protection. If I could just give a quick backdrop to this grant that we received, we're very excited about it. In July of 2015, the state of Florida enacted the Florida Peril of Flood Act, and that legislation placed some new requirements for local governments to address flooding related to sea level rise. So in reaction to that, there was a Tampa Bay Climate Science Advisory Panel that was formed, which City of Tampa was a part of. And in working with that group, which included the Hillsborough County Planning Commission, the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, they developed a sea level rise projection for our Tampa Bay region. The City of Tampa then took the next step of taking that information and applied a worst-case scenario to our city infrastructure, parcels, and facilities, and produced a memorandum called the Analysis of Sea Level Impacts on the City of Tampa Facilities, which was done in June of 2017. So the good news is that analysis basically showed that in terms of our structures, our parcels, our facilities, between now and the year 2040, we have a very good amount of time to address changes we may want to make in terms of our building codes and development, because there's not a lot of impact associated with that worst case scenario. However, on the stormwater side, we do have some issues that we want to go ahead and pursue. And if I could just show a photograph just to kind of give you an example, we have a lot of stormwater facilities that currently have what we call a tailwater condition, which is basically the pipe that goes out to the bay is partially underwater. So if you bear with me a moment to find that photograph.
It'll give you a good visual of the issue that we're trying to address with this grant that we received. So as you can see in this photograph, we have these pipes that we call outfalls that go into one of our bays. In a lot of cases, currently, those pipes go underwater when we have a high tide condition. Again, with, of course, sea level rise, that condition will continue to worsen. So with this grant, we're planning to take a sampling of some of these outfalls, do a vulnerability analysis, and create a framework for what is our strategy to start enhancing, mitigating the sea level rise impact on our outfalls. So this grant is just one small step towards that bigger effort that we'll have to take. And this information will be rolled into the mayor's advisory team for resiliency as we develop citywide policies for addressing sea level rise, resiliency, and sustainability for our city. So we're excited to get started on this, but we feel like we've kept up with this issue, we're in good shape, and we're continuing to take a next step forward to address those future concerns. If you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Duggan. So, just to start with, you mentioned the study, the Bay Area study came up with a sea level rise projection. What, can you equate that to numbers?
Yes. Can't go into the science and engineering behind it, but the number that they came up with was 1.59 feet.
Over what period of time?
That is the worst case scenario between now and 2040 that we will get to.
So almost 2 feet.
Yes, well, a little over 1.5 feet.
Okay, and that's so whatever our average high tide is now, anybody who's going to be around over the next 20 years can expect that average high tide is going to be at least 1.5 feet higher.
That would be potentially on top of what we have now, and again, that's a projection. The study recommended monitoring that and doing some elevation testing every 5 years because it's not a guaranteed number, but it's something that we want to be cognizant of and continue to keep our eye on.
I know they're experiencing this already down in South Florida, and they seem to get flooded streets on a regular basis in Miami Beach and that sort of thing. And how about storm surge? This is not dealing with storm surge, correct?
Correct. This is just because of climate conditions and anticipated rise in the sea level due to all those dynamics out there that are creating a warmer Earth that we have now.
Okay. And last question, and I appreciate you bringing this. It's really important, I think, that the community starts seeing this, thinking about it, talking about it, and not only addressing it at a city level, but also at a home level. What can folks do at their own, at their own homes in terms of their own resiliency? Because it can't just all fall on government. But anyway, my last question has to do with Mr. Awad. I recall we were talking about putting flaps sort of to prevent backflow on some of these outfalls to the bay. How did that work out? Did we install some and just to prevent some of the high tide flooding?
Good morning, Alex Awad, City of Tampa Stormwater Engineering Division. We did put a bunch of flap gates, sleeve valves on areas that are lower right now, but the potential danger of putting those flap gates on these outfalls that that Gene just showed you is that you have to have a hydraulic grade line of maybe 1 foot plus to push that gate open. So you may not get effect of sea level or sea water coming into your property, but then you'll have the effect of rainwater flooding your property. So we have to be very careful how we do this. Some areas we've done the flap gates and then we put a pump station to pump the water out when it's in a bowl effect, but not when the land is flat. So we're looking at it also.
I guess with all this additional stormwater fee money that we had to spend, we're probably doing a much better job than we were 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have questions on this item? Okay, do you wish to move it, sir, or?
Sure. Move item 15.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we have 44, 45, and we also have staff here as well for, if council is so amenable, 62 and 66. You want to 44? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I believe 44 and 45 might be the next one you would want to discuss, which is the transportation plan.
Yep.
So briefly, we are working very closely with HART and the county. In fact, we have a HART representative here today to develop our plan that we are required to submit to the Independent Oversight Committee, which was a committee that was identified in the recent sales tax referendum that will be basically checking to make sure that as the money was identified to be spent in different categories, that our projects are reflecting those categories. So we have worked closely with this group, and it was recently brought to our attention through the legal counsels of all three agencies that we needed to submit this plan by September 30th because the strategy in terms of the litigation that's going on with this sales tax is that we're going to continue to conduct ourselves business as usual, which means we're going to meet any requirements in the referendum, and as soon as the money becomes available with a hopeful positive resolution of the litigation, we will spend that money as the referendum requested, which we will do through an interlocal agreement with the county and also through an ordinance the county is actually discussing today over at their board. So briefly, I appreciate all of the time that you all took out of your schedules to chat with myself and our legal folks about the transportation plan itself. This plan is a reflection of a lot of backlogged projects that we've had in our queue, and we're happy to now maybe have a chance to get some of those done. We use the same protocol that we use for our CIP for our budget, which is we look at the infrastructure needs, what are the critical needs of the system, how can we make sure we're spreading the money around to all the districts so we have a fairness factor, and then what are those special interests or projects that we want to make sure we include as well. Another thing, we are not supplanting the sales tax money with this plan. If the unfortunate outcome is that we don't get the sales tax resolved positively, we will go forward with our budget that we're presenting to you again on, I think it's September 17th. That is a gas tax impact fee funded plan. If things go well in our favor, the projects on this transportation plan will be what I call gravy, or extra projects we'll do on top of our already planned budget that we have. So one other quick mention is we have a financial resolution that the budget folks have placed on the agenda as well that accompanies the plan. That amount is for $49 million. That's the projected amount that we would expect to have available in January if things go well. And again, the county, HART, and the city all work together to make sure we had the same methodology that we're using to establish those projections. So Tampa's projection is $49 million. Our list totals that amount. And one last comment is that our list has a set of line item projects and it has a set of programs. The programs are those smaller projects that we do in terms of complete street, safety projects, signal upgrades, pedestrian beacons, those spot projects that we do all over the city. We have a long list for all of those. So there's a lot of opportunity to add in locations as the year goes on. So we do have some flex in our plan going forward. We look forward next year to having a lot more public engagement, robust community conversations about the plan itself. This year, unfortunately, was a bit of a rush job because of the circumstances we're under. So we appreciate your support and your help with us getting our plan submitted and hopefully having an opportunity to spend this money that we badly need for our transportation system. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and our legal folks are here too to explain more on the litigation side of things.
And this is, just to clarify, this is the referendum that an overwhelming amount of Hillsborough County voters voted for in November.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to hear it. So, who has questions?
Yep.
Councilman Nicola?
Again, thank you, Ms. Duncan. I mean, to be honest, and I told you this in private, I'll say it in public, I was a little disappointed because, you know, this is huge. It's $49 million of new taxpayer money. What was it, half cent, 1 cent?
1 cent.
One full cent out of everybody's dollar that they pay for groceries, or not groceries, but for everything else. Sales tax. And so it's important that we not only spend it wisely, which I believe we are, but that we include the public and include council. Because of the litigation, things have gotten a little bit crazy, a little bit rushed, and I understand that. Looking forward next year, hopefully we'll be in full gear and not only spending next year's money, but also actually we have to spend this past year's money. So the next opportunity, I would encourage you to use this body and this to use us as a way to engage the public, so that if you have a draft list, we schedule a couple-hour workshop to go over that draft list in detail to say, okay, here's Cypress Avenue, and this is what we plan on doing here, and here's such and such, and here's what we're going to do here, and here's the streetcar, and this is what we're going to do here, and here's a potential rail system, and this is what we're going to do there, with dollar signs attached to each one. So we can workshop that in advance of approving it and sending it over, and give it a month or two, opportunity in advance of those deadlines. So, but anyway, that's what I would hope that we would do, and then we could advertise it fully, and the All for Transportation folks can come in here as well as any other citizens to express their opinions on how we're spending that new money.
We certainly plan to do that. Great suggestion, and we definitely want to have more engagement on all levels, meetings and other means for people to weigh in. The commitment that our citizens gave us through voting for this, they deserve to have more information and transparency and engagement in how things are being planned, and so that's how we're looking at this going forward for sure.
The last question I had on this, Mr. Chairman, is in regard to WMBE opportunities. Again, this is new money. It's a new program. I don't expect you to have answers for us today, but if it's almost $50 million a year and will increase over the years, I think that there's some neat opportunities for us to be even more dynamic and creative on WMBE and minority business opportunities, for the community, all the community to participate. And so I'll look to you and your department, since most of this is going through you, to take a leap beyond some of the other departments and show us how good that can be.
We'll certainly work with Mr. Hart's office to see how we can make sure that we are giving local opportunities out there. It will create a lot of job opportunities on many levels when this money comes to us. So a really positive economic impact. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
When the balloon finally busts and it comes raining, I guess for me, I want to kind of get an idea as far as the schematic you gave out and that list of priorities. How will that break down? Who's up first? Who's on second? How does that go? How will that break down?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, when we plan projects, we do that in technical way in terms of what the infrastructure needs are, whether it's a traffic signal, whether it's an intersection that has congestion, whether it's a road that needs to be paved. You know, we separate those categories out and we create lists based on the need of the infrastructure. And then we take that information and look to see about spreading the work around evenly as much as possible throughout the city. Even though we have some areas that are older and some areas that are newer, we still need to have, there's still needs in all areas, and we need to make sure we're distributing those monies fairly. And then, of course, we add in any other requests that we're getting that seem to be, special or critical or more urgent, and roll that together and come up with the locations that we're planning to do our project. So part of the effort next year will be to update what we call our mobility plan, which is basically our master plan for transportation. And part of that will include public engagement, where we talk about how we prioritize projects. And the prioritization method will be part of what we want to hear back from folks and have possible tweakings of that. The way we prioritize roadway projects is a little different than we might prioritize sidewalk projects. So we definitely will be trying to add more, specificity to some of those methodologies once we get started next year, and hear from the public on some of the programs that we have, how we're prioritizing those, and maybe there's some new ways of doing that that will be more creative and more amenable to people.
I just want to make sure that there will be a mechanism in place for citizens, because it might be something that we miss, but the public is aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure there's a mechanism in place that people can be able to say, hey, this is here, we need your help on this, and make sure we're identifying it.
If I could just also add, the mayor has 5 advisory teams that she's put together. One of those is transportation. And I know that when those recommendations come out from that advisory team, that having a laser focus on more enhanced public and community engagement is going to be part of those recommendations. So no matter how much money we have to spend, public engagement is going to be something that we're wanting to ramp our efforts up on with our folks in terms of transportation. So you'll see that one way or the other.
Thank you.
All right, any other
Sure.
questions? Councilman.
Yeah, one quick comment, and I don't know, this just popped in my head. Do you recall when Pinellas County passed their, I think it was pennies for Pinellas, and as you'd be driving around Pinellas County, you'd see the signage.
Yes.
And say, this project paid for by Pennies for Pinellas. And then I assume that the next time they came back with, 5-10 years later with a similar type of ask, that would help the community be able to understand what that money was going for. I would urge not only the city of Tampa, but all the jurisdictions to do that. And I know that's not necessarily a council task, but please ask the mayor if she'll put up signage like that on every single project. Paid for, this project paid for by all for transportation penny sales tax, and in a big way, and encourage all the other jurisdictions to do the same.
It's an excellent point. We're definitely talking about that, branding this and messaging it through signage similar to what Pinellas does, because it really gives people a positive feedback that what they're having to pay out of their pocket, they're seeing physical results of that, and they're getting a benefit from it. So it's a great suggestion, and we definitely are planning to do something along those lines.
You and I also talked about yesterday, I said district by district, how is this breaking out?
Mm-hmm.
Have you discussed that today?
Yes, I have some numbers here. We've been working on a map to map out our existing capital improvement program, as well as the All for Transportation program as well, just to see how all the dots on the map, if you want to call it, are lining up. And so it's very interesting that I have a 5-year snapshot on that. I can throw a few numbers out. I'm happy to share this map with you once we kind of get it finalized. But for our, if we look at the surtax plan over a 5-year period, we're looking at, make sure I got my numbers correct here. We're looking at $18 million in District 4, $18,600,000 in District 5, $15,925,000 District 6, and $21,750,000 in District 7. So without strategically planning that, for those numbers to come out that close for all 4 districts, it just was a great endorsement that the way we approach project planning is very appropriate, because we're seeing a very even playing field with our 4 districts. So
And that's
we can,
annually.
pardon me?
Annually.
This is a 5-year snapshot.
Okay, fine, okay.
But we're happy to do any sort of metrics on that going forward that you might want to see, to keep getting assurances and to be able to share that with your constituents. The fairness factor is baked into our prioritization processes.
All right, any other questions, comments? Well, first, let me just say thank you, and thank you for your email this morning, and to your department that's always very responsive, especially William Porth and others. So you guys are wonderful. So if I could get a motion for 44 or 45 to move the resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilman Dingfelder with a second from Councilman Goods. All in favor?
All right.
All right, and number 45? Would you want to take them together? It was fine.
Yeah, motion was for
Together?
both.
Okay, that worked fine. Okey dokey.
Mr. Chairman, motion carries, but we are abstaining.
Yeah. All right. Were we jumping along to?
62.
I believe 66, if that's
All right, 66. You are here.
council's pleasure, if that's okay. So item 66, I'm so glad this issue was raised, because there's a recent media coverage about what used to be called a red line list, which, believe it or not, since the 1980s, no one ever pointed out to any of us nerdy engineers that that's probably not a very good name for this list that we have. We drew a red line on a piece of paper. It's the red line list. So sometimes we don't think outside the box in ways that we should. So I appreciate that this was brought to our attention. And just very quickly, this list, which we have renamed the Stormwater Advisory List, the SAL list, which is not Mr. Torito. He wasn't too happy about the name, but we think it's a good one. We've already changed our website to reflect this new name of the list. And the original intended purpose of it was to give some information to property owners and to our permit reviewers that there are stormwater, drainage, flooding issues related to a property that might need extra attention than otherwise necessary. So it was just meant as an informational point of reference. That's really all it was ever meant to be, and it's been in existence, like I said, since the 1980s. So since this was brought forward as there was concerns about it, not only did we rename the list, but we're working on putting a short request form on our website for folks that, if they're seeing that their property is on there, and it's very easy to go on the website, click on your property and see if it's on there, and if it is, what the reason for it being on there is. And so we're planning to put a short request form on there for folks that would like to inquire to us, why is my property on there, and could I have it taken off? And so we're going to have that updated on the website. In the meanwhile, we have an internal standard operating procedure that we've identified, we've put in place for our engineers to use. When we get these requests, we will go through that process to review the inquiry and see whether we can remove that property from this list or not. In the meanwhile, we're going back and looking to see all the reasons why properties were put on there in the first place, going back all the way to the 80s. And we'll be cleaning up the reasons why properties get put on the list, and also potentially removing some of the properties that don't need to be on there anymore. It could have been in the 80s. There was some flooding issues. Since that time, we've built a stormwater system. Those problems don't exist anymore. Therefore, the property does not need to be on the list. So that's sort of the quick and dirty summary of this list, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Dingfelder and Councilman.
I'll defer to Councilman Goods first.
Well, I guess I'm glad that staff recognized that when I recognized that on the television set one night. I guess my only concern is if I'm a citizen and I'm looking to purchase a property, and I buy this property, and now construction says, you've got this situation here. I'm just looking like a before. If I've got my savings and I invested all this money, now I found out now I can't move forward this project because I don't have the money because the city says I'm on this list here. How do we do it before so a person doesn't get stuck? That's my concern.
Well, again, that's a tough question. You know, some people are more thorough with their due diligence of decisions they make than others. I don't know that I have an easy answer for that, but our best effort is to put this out there for anyone who's looking to purchase a property. If they start doing their homework on whether it's a good decision or not, we have this out there available for them to look at, and certainly they can call with any questions. I'm not sure how we get this in front of folks because there's many things that could be affecting a property. There could be a project that's being planned that might affect them. There could be air traffic that they don't know about. You know, there's a railroad track that the horn blows all the time that they don't know about. So it's hard to like get all of those factors that a property owner might want to know about before they purchase something, before they go in, and then, gosh, I wish I knew about this train. I wish I knew about this power line that's over there. I'm not sure if I have a quick answer for you.
I get where you're
but
going,
I'm happy
Gene.
to try to help.
We're down that other road here, but the road I'm on is if I just spent I contacted a realtor about this particular property, and all I have is $180,000. That was my deal to get things moving. Now all of a sudden I'm told by our construction division or permitting that can't happen, and now you need another $70,000 to get this moving. So I guess my thing is, and I don't know easy catch for it. I don't know if it's to our benefit as a council to make sure that if someone purchases a home within the city limits, that they know or check with our department to make sure this. I'm looking out for the citizen who just doesn't know to know, and when they just don't know to know, it's like I'm stuck. So I'm just trying to find a way that we can help the public, the people.
I can tell you that recently our administrator, Brad Baird, did a presentation to the GTAR, which is the Greater Tampa Area Realtor Association, and talked about this very issue with them so that body is aware. So I think what we could do is continue to work with the home builders, with the realty community, to get this information out there that as folks are making decisions about personal investments, they have all the information at their fingertips to make a good decision. So we're happy to try to do more of that. It's just a kind of a tough one to have a quick and easy answer to make sure. There's so much information in our world today. How do we get that in front of everyone? So, but if we can do something that seems like a helpful suggestion, we're happy to do that.
Well, I think I'll reach out to you because I think I have a suggestion for that before I announce it to this body. But I think I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just wanted to follow up on that, and thank you, Gene. Jan McLean with the Office of City Attorney. It doesn't always mean that if your property is on this list that it's identified with something that you can't build or that's an impediment to be built. It's just an identifier of an issue that's been associated with a particular piece of property that you need to know about. And so it takes an additional level of review when it goes to construction services with a permit application. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily an impediment. It's an internal review, and that's why Gene has said that we're going back and looking at this list because of the work that's already been done. We'd be able to potentially remove a significant number of these properties from the list.
Again, that goes back to my original point. If I only have so much of capital, and I've already purchased, and now I go to do the actual build, but now the bill says I got to redo this or redo that, then I don't have enough money to do the build.
But respectfully, that's why I was trying to clarify that it might not require additional capital for the build. It's just to identify for our reviewing staff to be able to know what that issue is associated with that particular property.
And I get that, but again, I think the home buyer, if they're in the city of Tampa, if we've got that on our list or possible potential for that, if there's a realtor that's gonna sell that property, I think it's the right of the city, this body, to make sure that the citizens knows what they're getting into regardless, so they don't get stuck.
Duly noted. Yes, sir.
Councilman Dingfelder, then Councilman Citro.
I look at this with a couple of different hats on. As a councilman, I think it's, we initially probably started this decades ago as sort of a public service to a certain extent, as well as an internal, an internal thing. As a licensed real estate broker, a member of GTAR, I have concerns about protecting, and also as an attorney, I have concerns about protecting as Mr. Goods mentioned, protecting the buyers. But then, as an attorney, I also have some concerns, and I'd like to ask Ms. Zellman what she thinks, having been out in the private sector for quite a while, about our concerns of the property owners potentially as the sellers. Because there's case law out there that says, I think it's about 10, 15 years ago, Andrea, that says that, if you put a proposed road on a map, but you don't build it and you don't start doing a taking, effectively you've done a taking, because you've got that dotted, and you remember this one, Gene. I can't remember the case name, but you've got that dot on a map, and all of a sudden everybody might shy away from it, or property values might change dramatically, and the Supreme Court spoke to that. My concern is a little bit about current property owners having a takings claim because of those red lines or SALs now on the map. And Ms. Zellman, you have any feeling on that? I won't hold you to it and welcome back, by the way.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the earlier welcome back. I appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here. Jean called herself a nerdy engineer. I'm a nerdy local government attorney. I'm thrilled to be back and working with local government. I think what Jan was trying to point out, and Jean as well, is right now the recent publicity about this item has caused the city staff to go back and look at these lists that have been kept, like you said, for many, many, many decades. And what they're finding is that some of these properties were put on the list because the city may ultimately want to ask for an easement on a particular piece of property, or some of them may just have a neighbor with a drainage issue, and so when the next house gets built, they want to make sure that's accommodated. But I think the point right now is this is causing the city staff to go back and look at this list and make sure that the homes, the parcels of property that are on there should be on there, categorize them. Some are of more concern than others. Many, are minor things. Many can probably be taken off the list. So before we do anything radical and before we alarm people, the staff wants to go back and clean up the list and again categorize the reasons why some of the properties were put on the list for things that we're looking at now and saying this doesn't even make sense. Let's go back and revisit it. So I think that's what the staff is trying to say, is give them a little bit more time to clean up the list, but also, as Jan pointed out, be aware that simply because a property is on the list doesn't necessarily mean that the parcel cannot be, that construction can't go forward on the parcel, or that anything will actually cost the property owner money.
Well, I guess I'd urge legal counsel also to look at this holistically, to say, should we have a list at all in regard to the potential harmful impact on the current property owners?
Right.
Not to say that that anybody should be sneaky or that sort of thing, but listen, people have property rights too. And that could cost us a lot of money if we're impacting those property rights.
Correct.
But the other thing I was going to mention is, and I don't know if these lists still include this, but sometimes we actually have stormwater pipes diagonally across people's properties, in their backyards. I remember one down in South Tampa that was actually underneath somebody's house, right there off of McDill.
Yeah.
And that caused litigation, and ultimately the house just fell apart because nobody, it was just a big mess for years. So I'm assuming that our SAL map includes those as well?
I believe it does, correct, yes.
So what's the timeline in terms of us revamping this or revisiting this, and should you come back and give us an update?
You know, I don't have a really solid timeline. It's certainly at least 6 months. There's probably 1,000 properties on the list, would you say, Alex?
There's
I have a number.
5% of the city.
I have the number.
And you'll have to
There's
come up to speak.
There's actually 7,692 parcels on the list. And we want to be thorough with each one. Some will be very quick, where there's evidence that there's no need. But certainly, we'll need some time to go through it appropriately and thoroughly.
Maybe with the summer rains, you can come back next spring and give us an update.
That would be appreciated if we could do that. We'll certainly have some progress by then we can report back on.
Thank you. Councilman Rand, then Councilman Citro.
Thank you. We can't be perfect, and let me give you some examples. It's almost impossible to be perfect. I built a house, and I come before a body. And the body tells me you have to put a swale, you have to put a retention pond in the back, and I do that. So now I'm there for 10 years, and I sell the house to another party. There's a drought for 3 or 4 years. All of a sudden they say, why do we have these swales? Why do we have these? They fill them in. They don't ask permission, they fill them in.
Mm-hmm.
The next door neighbor sells a house to party C. Now you got party A and party C living in the house that I lived in and the neighbor lived in. All of a sudden, it's filled in, it starts to rain. Guess what happens? It floods. However, in the original plans, it was stated they had a ditch and they had a swale. The problem is, who checked it in the last 10 years? I would say no one. But if you have 7,000 in that list, I can give you one that's going to have 15,000. Those are the homes that are divided into rental properties for 3 and 4 families with 3 kitchens. And in a little part of West Tampa, they identified 232 of them just in a small area. So I would imagine that the amount would be equal to or greater than the 7,000 you just identified. What's the problem there? First of all, they're not zoned for multifamily. Second of all, they don't pay ad valorem taxes because their homestead's supposed to be gone. They don't even pay Uncle Sam taxes. So what are we doing there? I'll tell you what we're doing there. Nothing. I'll leave it up to the court. Thank you.
Councilman Citro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Going back to Councilman Googe's points, Ms. Duncan, this list, first line of defense for every potential homeowner is the realtor. Second is title companies. Are these lists going to be given to the majority of realtors or the Greater Tampa realtors or all of the title companies?
This is not something we hand out to folks.
Is it going to be available?
It's available. It's been available for decades. It continues to be available. We do work with the Tampa Bay Builders Association. They're fully aware. So we're just being transparent, and it's really on the purchaser to do their homework and get as much information as they can. It's only intended for informational purposes.
So that when a potential homeowner goes, I need full disclosure of everything that's on that property, they're doing their due diligence to the title companies and the realtors.
Well, I know homeowners...
Pertaining to this SAL list.
If a homeowner is going to sell their property, they have to disclose any issues, of course. They may not know about this list. They disclose what they know about their property in as much honesty as they see fit. Again, this is just information, just like there's information about future roads that are coming along and those type of things. So we're not out shopping it around. We just are placing it out there for those that are interested in inquiring on the subject matter, that they have the information And as Andrea mentioned, we will be cleaning up the criteria and the number of parcels so that it's a more streamlined list that just has the real parcels on there that need to be on there in terms of any easement requirements or other things. So
Thank you, Ms.
I hope that
Dunn.
answers
Thank
your
you, Mr.
question.
Yes, sir. Anyone else on this item? Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Is anyone here from city staff additionally on any other items?
62.
62.
Go ahead, sir.
Eric Weiss, wastewater department, here to answer any questions you have on item 62.
Any questions on 62? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning.
How are you? I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but when I looked at the details on item 62 and specifically Exhibit C, which is the our EEOC WMBE EEOP, excuse me, EBOP, Equal Business Opportunity Program Procedures for GMP contracts. If everybody goes to that page, what you'll see is 3 pages of blank pages. In other words, we provide the vendor, in this case, and I'm not being mean to them, but Garney Companies is the successful guaranteed maximum price GMP vendor for $13 million project for a pumping station rehab. But we don't have any goals. We don't have any goals on there. And I understand GMP has a lot of negotiations to it after the fact, and I think that's all fine and good because I trust you guys. You have good engineers. You're a good engineer. You have good engineers working for you, et cetera, to deal with the nuts and bolts and pipes and that sort of thing. But my concern is that, I think we should go into these contracts saying, this is our expectation, 20% or whatever, and at least have some expectation built in there. Right now, I see 3 blank pages that create no expectation. So they can come back and say, the best we can do is 5%, and a year from now they say, we've met our 5%, aren't we fantastic? And then we pat ourselves on the back and say we met our goal. I find it frustrating. I think we can do a better job.
Okay, there was a project-specific goal for this at 20.4% that was in the fact sheet. And again, because it's a design build, we're only 60% done with the design. They give us a construction cost, it's a goal. So those subcontracting packages get developed as we finish the design.
Well, and I've said this before with my lawyer hat on. It's a goal on the fact sheet on page 1, 20.4%, but nowhere in the quote contract that we're entering into did I find that 20.4% spoken to. So again, Ms. Zellman will confirm that if it's not in the contract, how binding is it? I'm not asking her to step up and say that. I mean, it's a rhetorical question.
I think it's the project delivery method with design build. Like you said before, you progress with design. You with the design, before it's done, you hire the contractor. So we haven't developed all the final subcontracting packages yet, but we met with the MBE office, came up with the opportunities, they came up with a goal. And then in the future, they're gonna start to put out those packages to the contracting.
What leverage do we have after we sign the contract to get them to that 20% goal?
I think, that's our job to monitor it, to make sure that happens. As a wastewater department, the contract admin department, and the MBE office.
Okay.
And ultimately, with this delivery method, not that you want it, but if they didn't do a good job, we select these teams. It's not low bid. So next time they come in line, they may not get future work if they don't meet their criteria.
Is Mr. Hart on that selection team?
Yes.
Okay, so from a timing perspective, what's a reasonable time for you to come back and report on how they are doing in regard to that 20% goal?
I mean, I could propose 3 months, because that's when the design gets finished and they start putting out these packages. They, as the design.
Whatever's reasonable to you, we're going to be here.
3 months works.
Okay, all right. So if Mr. Chairman will entertain a motion after the other comments, I'll make that.
Yes, sir. Councilman Goods.
And my good friend, you've done it again, you know? I have friends that sit on other boards and councils, and they do business a little bit differently. They have a percentage that's locked in. There's no going under. This is the percentage. And I think we may need to be looking at that in the future, because we're always giving a leeway, and we don't monitor. You can say we monitor, but we don't monitor. It's just the contract. And I think going forward, this council needs to really look at how we're doing business, or how we're giving business out, because we're not really reaching the goals. We have no way of tracking to make sure the goals are met. And I'm finding this out every time we go through a contract, and Mr. Dingfelder brings it out all the time. Well, what's the goal? What's the goal? And we're always under the goals. Well, if somebody can't meet the goal, they shouldn't have the contract. They can't meet the goal. Period. If I say we have a program and this is 22%, if you can't meet that goal, you don't need to apply for that contract. And maybe we need to go outside of the scope with maybe people that are local and go other places who can meet those goals. But I'm tired of hearing the same old thing. We can never meet the goal, or we're always under. So I think, we need to research this. This council needs to start looking at that and start putting some parameters around these contracts and saying, this is the city's goal, period. If you can't meet that goal, you don't get that contract in the process. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Councilman, anyone else? Councilman Dingfelder.
Joe, with your hand up? No. Okay. Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to move for staff to report back on the progress of MBE for this particular contract to Garney, $13 million on December 5th, if that's reasonable to you, Eric.
Absolutely.
We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder.
Staff report.
A second by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I'll move item 62.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, no further, staff? Okay, now we move to...
Turn up the heat.
50, and may I have a motion to open...
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we're going to go forward with our quasi-judicial hearings. If anyone is here to speak today in any quasi-judicial matter, please stand up if you're able to do so. Raise your right hand if you're able to do so, and prepare to be sworn in.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of order, you had asked if any other staff is here on these other items.
Is there?
Yeah. I mean, I see
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dennis
Excuse
is
me,
here,
yes.
or Eric.
Okay.
Eric Cotton.
I'm sorry.
Is he here for a hearing?
Okay, I might be wrong. I didn't know if Eric was here in lieu of Dennis or anything like that.
He has an appeal.
All right, never mind. That doesn't look like the staff is here.
Okay, go ahead, y'all.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
Mr.
Mr.
Shelby.
Chairman, I heard you reference item 50. Did you want to open up all the 9:30 and
Yes, sir.
10:30 public hearings?
Yes, sir. Motion by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, Chairman, Council, LaShawn Dog, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Council, item number 50 is a second reading. This is REZ 1954. This request was from RM16 to PD. There were site plan revisions required between first and second reading. Those revisions have been made. That plan has been certified and provided to the clerk. I am available if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any questions? Thank you. Applicant.
Steve Michelini, I was representing the petitioner on this. Be happy to answer any questions you might have. We've made the revisions and respectfully request your approval.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. If anyone is here in the public to speak on item number 50, please come forward at this time.
Move to close.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Any opposed? Councilman Dingfelder, can you, sir, read item number 50?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll move an ordinance rezoning property for second reading and adoption in the general vicinity of 405 South Westland Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classifications RM16, residential multifamily, to PD, plan development residential multifamily, providing an effective date and including the revisions described successfully by staff a few minutes ago.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Goods. Please record your vote.
Motion carried with Carlson being absent.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, 51.
Council, LaShawn Dock, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Council, item 51 is another second reading that is before you this morning. It is REZ 1955. The request is from RS 50 to RM 18, and I am available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone here for item 51? Petitioner?
Maybe just public comment?
Yeah. Okay, anyone here to publicly comment on item number 51, if please come forward at this time.
Move to close.
Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Dingfelder, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Goods, can you, sir, take item 51?
Ordinance being presented second reading and adoption of file number REZ 19-55. The ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 4210 and 4212 West Carmen Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, are more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS 50 residential single family to RM 18 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried with Carlson being absent.
Thank you, ma'am. 52.
Yes, Council, LaShawn Dock, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Item 52 is REZ 1957. This request is before you this morning for second reading. This request is from RS 50 to PD. Site plan revisions were required between first and second reading. Those revisions have been made. The plans have been certified by the zoning administrator and have been provided to the clerk. I am available if you have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone have any questions on item 52? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here for 52? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, Scott Haas, I'm the applicant.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Haas? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody here to publicly comment on item number 52? If please come forward.
Close.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Niscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Niscalco, can you, sir, take 52?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2911 North Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS 50, residential single family, to PD, plan development office, business professional, providing an effective date.
Okay.
We have a motion by Councilman Niscalco, a second by Councilman Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried with Carlson being absent.
Thank you. Next, we move to item 53.
Yes, Council, LaShawn Dock, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. This is REZ 1958, and this item is before you this morning for second reading. The request is from RM 16 to RS 50, and I am available if you have any questions.
Any questions on 53? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Is anyone here for item 53, applicant?
My name is Bob St. Pierre. I represent the applicant. I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you very much, sir. Is anyone here to publicly comment on item 53? If so, please come forward. There being none, we move to close. Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Councilman Citro, can you, sir, take 53?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance file number REZ 1958, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 3302 and 3304 West San Juan Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM 16 residential multifamily to RS 50 residential single family, providing an effective date. The petitioner has met the burden of proof, and it does meet the comprehensive plan.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried with Carlson being absent.
Thank you, ma'am. We move next to item 54.
Yes, Council, LaShawn Dodd, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Item 54 is REZ 1960. This is for the property located at 4450 West Ohio Avenue. This item is before you for second reading. The request was from RM16 to CN, and I am available if you have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant here for 54? Go ahead.
My name is Abbas Hashimi. I'm here. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone here from the public here to speak or comment on item number 54? If so, please come forward. We have a motion to close by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Dingfelder. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, please record. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Miranda, if you, sir, could take 54.
I move file number REZ 19-60. An ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance rezoning property general vicinity of 4450 West Ohio Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification, or M16 residential multifamily, to C and commercial neighborhood, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Niscalco. Please record your vote.
Motion carried with Carlson being absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 55. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Barbara Lynch, Land Development Coordination. Item 55 is a request to vacate an alley at 1609 North Florida. Staff has no objection with this going forward. This is paired with the rezoning. The next item on the agenda, it's my understanding that they are amending their site plan, and so they are going to be pulling that item. Is that correct? So, but I talked to staff, and they have no problem with the vacating going forward.
Okay. Any questions on item 55?
So just
yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Point of order. Changing the site plan. Which one should we hear first? Does that have any impact on one on the other?
Council, Kristen Moore, Legal Department. I believe that the applicant is going to address that for you.
So which one should we hear? Are we hearing them both, or what?
So, yeah, it would be appropriate for you to hear item 55, the vacating. That is an independent application, although related. It is an independent application, and then they can still come back with 56.
But, so you're asking us to vote on 55, which is sort of integrally tied to 56. Maybe we should just hear from them, so that way if it could.
I was just hearing from the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Applicant.
Good morning, Council. Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive, here on behalf of Salvation Army, the applicant. So we do want to move forward with the right-of-way vacation. It is integral to the site plan, but we need to get that first. That needs to be approved before we can approve the site plan. So let me talk about what's being changed. As you recall, the last time we were here, there was a lot of concern from the neighborhood, a lot of valid concern about the category of professional residential treatment facility possibly permitting uses that Salvation Army has no intention of doing, but nonetheless, you, I think in particular, Councilman Dingfelder had a question about whether we could prohibit certain uses, but we can't really get out of the sort of vernacular, the vocabulary that's already in the land development code. After working a lot with city staff, who I want to thank for all their willingness to work with the Salvation Army, it looks like we're going to be able to amend the site plan, not changing any physical footprint at all, but replacing those words professional residential treatment facility with emergency, I believe it's emergency homeless shelter, which really more accurately describes exactly what we're doing. And by narrowing down that definition, I think we're going to hopefully allay some of the neighborhood's concerns about this turning into a drug and alcohol rehab facility. So that's the change that we're going to make. But because we noticed it to the neighborhood as a professional residential treatment facility, we're going to have to re-notice it. So that's why we are pulling 56 from the agenda today. But while we're here, we want to go ahead and get the right-of-way vacation done. There's no need to wait on that. Nothing we are changing affects the right-of-way vacation. It's just one less thing to handle when we're back to confirm the site plan. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments from City Council?
I think don't get me wrong, I appreciate the change. I think it's a significant change and one that might persuade me to vote for you, your client this next time. But I think that they kind of got bundled together the last time the folks were here. They probably gave up this time because it was a 6-1 vote. I think it'd be great to just leave them bundled. As you say, there's no difference. You're not starting construction or anything else. I just think procedurally it might be nice to have them float together.
I think
I don't really understand why they wouldn't.
I would defer to Barbara on this, but it's not so much that they are bundled that one precedes the other. And because the right-of-way vacation was passed the last time, there's no reason why that shouldn't be heard for second reading. We believe here this morning, what it happens to travel with, the trajectory of that being affected, we don't think has some antecedent effect back on the right-of-way.
I guess all I would say is to legal staff and the planning staff and the council is that from a matter of precedent, we just usually leave these things bundled together. That's the way they were presented.
Well, years ago, council wanted zoning and vacatings when they were, on the same property, they wanted them to run together. So that's why we tell people when they come to vacate and rezone that these have to go together to council. But I think if the site plan is only being amended and not really changing that much from what was initially presented, I don't think it's a problem, but it's at your discretion.
So from a precedent perspective, we usually leave things bundled together.
Yeah, we don't typically get too many continuations like this, but it could run together. I don't think it's going to make a difference in the long run, but it's your choice.
And if I can, counsel, sometimes in your analysis of public purpose behind vacation, we look at what is being proposed. And if this is a precedent, and I'm saying this is the case, but once you grant the vacation, then that is a property right that attaches to the matter of law. If a project should something change between then and it coming back, council would have no discretion and recourse at that time. So that's probably the rationale behind having the two linked together.
Anything further, Councilman Dingfelder? At this time?
No, I mean procedurally, I'd rather just see them linked together.
Councilman Moore.
I'm not opposed to that, but I'd like to ask the petitioner, what's the reason that you say that you should not? I think when we heard these things last time, this is the one in Henderson and Florida Avenue, you had two buildings across the street that you say, well, you're going to get that and have less beds than the one you're proposing here now, if I remember.
That's right. When you combine the entitlements of the Red Shield Lodge on the west side of Florida with the building we're talking about here, east side of Florida, that the aggregate bed count there, I want to say is around 190, and we're asking for, I believe, 175 total. So it's a net reduction in available beds.
And you're going to have the amenities of the application to the outside is going to be much nicer looking than it is now.
Yes,
and
Councilman.
I would imagine that those properties across the street, you can put them for sale, they're going to be nicer than what they are now. But the question that I have for you is, what's the holdup that would in any way conflict with something that your client may need for this petition? As we heard those last time, a couple of weeks ago, I think they were about heard together.
The right-of-way in this PD, that's correct, sir, they were, because the plan developed.
What I'm asking is, what's the big holdup to your client if we hold them to fix that, because you're going to get them anyway?
There's no big hold-up, Councilman. I just think that the ordinary procedures.
In other words, a bunt is just as good as a single. You get the first base.
I agree with that. I guess we're up at bat, and so I guess we don't really want to go back in the dugout.
I understand.
But
remember, you may not get the batting average, but home base percentage is the same.
I'm not going to go
I'm just
the
trying
metaphor
to
dual
mitigate
field.
this thing so we can get it going.
I understand. We think
Okay,
that this is noticed for second reading. It's appropriate to handle it now, but we certainly respect your decision either way. So.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to continue both items. What would be the appropriate date for that re-noticed item?
Council LaShawn Dock, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Item 56, the rezoning. That item has to be removed from the agenda. So item 55, which is the vacating, could be continued. But item 56 has to be removed just because the use is changing. It has to be re-reviewed, and then the applicant would re-notice again based on the new use.
So what's, based upon that and the re-noticing, what's a reasonable date that would come back that the renoticed item would come back? December or something?
Kristen Moore, Legal Department. I don't think we know yet where they are at in the process. They are making some administrative determinations about parking requirements and everything. The new homeless shelter or emergency shelter use that they are utilizing under our code is not as well defined as some of our other uses, so there are some administrative things that have to be done. I don't think we know exactly when they're going to be back before you yet. I would just point out for the record that the standards for considering vacatings don't include, what could be happening in a related rezoning. I have them up here on the overhead. It's, whether it'll
Petitioner
leave.
already said he didn't have a problem if that was council's desire. That was a concession I thought I heard. So if that's the case, I'm just looking for a date. With all due respect.
I guess in December, I don't know if you can make it contingent upon ascertaining the date that we're back for the PD, but again, when I say that we respect your decision, that's what we say, because you're in charge, you're the deciders in this case, but there is no reason to not hear this right-of-way vacation now. The neighbors who are concerned about the planned development will have every opportunity to come before this council and register any new concerns, any old concerns about the development itself. This is a procedural antecedent to all that happening. It's vacating the alley. There's no objection from staff, and we don't think there's any reasonable objection to delay that, because the whole ballgame here is the plan for the new building. That's going to come back here. It's going to get renoticed. It's going to come not just for one more reading. It's going to come for 2 more readings if we're successful. And so that's why we'd like to go ahead and just have this wrapped up here. But of course, we're going to abide by whatever council decides.
No joke, no joke. Listen, no joke. Of course you're going to buy this body or any other body.
No choice.
You're telling me something we already know.
No
You're
choice.
wasting your time. Not mine, your time.
Right.
I'm getting paid for this. I guess you are too.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me explain this. And you said it when you're saying it. There's no reason for it, but procedurally. Well, just take this case aside. And we said, this case is a standard for everything else that comes like this, then we're going to give everybody the closing of an alley. And somewhere along the line, we may make a mistake. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to hurt anybody. So that's why I understand what is being said from this side of the dais. And I understand your side. But you can't hold your case on what procedurally may happen to us. And that's why I agree with Mr. Dingfelder.
You understand?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So my motion, unless legal is telling me something different right this second, I'd like to move the vacating petition to December hearing date, based upon the reasons that have been stated. If I get a date from Mr. Shelby, that would be great. And to remove the other item from the agenda, which will be renoticed and refiled.
And we'll wait on the date. Are we getting a date?
Just needed a December date.
Okay, December. Do we have a second?
Mid-December. Give me a specific one, anybody?
Council, Kristen Moore, Legal Department. The difficulty is this would be a second reading, and we don't know yet what the second reading would be. We might be able to determine what the first reading would be, but it's a little bit more of extrapolation to figure out what the second reading is going to be.
But if it's continued and we're not ready for it, we can just continue it again.
December 19th.
December 19th.
December 19th would be the regular session of council. December 12th would be the evening session of council when you would, in theory, hear the rezoning on first reading.
Okay, December 19th in the evening.
The 12th in the
12th,
evening. The
thank
12th, December 12th in the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda.
To the applicant, is that date foreseeably amenable to you?
Sure, and if needed, we can continue it then.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Dingfelder, a second, I believe, by Councilman Escanco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we move next to item 57. And gentlemen and everyone in the audience, we are inching on noon. I know we always like to take a break, especially for the staff to eat. May I have a motion for, let's say, is everyone amenable to, let's say, about 12:15? Is that everyone amenable to that? Staff, everybody fine? Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Escalco. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Citro. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 25 more minutes. We are on to item 57.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, and forgive me, refresh my recollection. Did Councilman move item 56? It was done.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Julie Hardy, Legal Department. Just as a quick refresher, in December of last year, you approved the use of the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem assessment for funding streetlights and the boundaries of this district to be a special assessment district. Today's public hearing is to actually adopt the special assessment role to send to the tax collector and get on the tax bill for 2019.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Dingfelder.
I apologize, I didn't get a chance to meet with staff on these, but are there any existing residents or property owners that would be impacted and added on to the special assessment, or is this just specific to a particular builder who perhaps is standing next to you right this second?
Yeah, this is an existing plat. There are existing properties and
There's other properties that he doesn't own?
that he doesn't own.
That's my question.
Yes, I believe so.
Correct. Okay, and how many properties and how have those folks have they been specifically noticed in advance as to this issue? Do they get noticed in advance?
They do They get statutory notice by mail, 30 days before the hearing, and also the notice is published.
And what is the dollar amount on their tax roll?
For 2019, because there's a lag between the actual installation of the streetlights and when the application was processed, and TICO was a little bit behind in their installation of streetlights. There's a lag, and so 2019, the assessment is lower than it will be in 2020 and subsequent
I'm just
years.
trying to get a sense of, let's say I've got a 50-foot lot and a little single-family house that happens to be, adjacent to this and going to be included in this. How much will my property tax go up? And I'm not looking for an exact amount. I just want a ballpark.
Is this for all the property?
It's my understanding is that it's $7.30 per lot.
$7.30 per lot.
2019.
Okay, add forever, pretty much. Well, does this come up every year?
No, this doesn't come up every year. It's just heard once, and the assessment is good for 20 years. But if it increases, it would come back. But
The assessment's on there every year at $7 or more.
Just 2019, and starting in fiscal year 2020, the assessment would be $128. No, $175.
$128.
Sorry, $128 per.
From $7 to $128?
The 2019 figures are based on just administrative costs to set up the special assessment because of the lag in time between when the application came in, which was last year, and the delay that TICO has right now in
Okay.
installing the
And
streetlights.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I've never really asked questions about these special assessments. So if I'm this 50-foot property owner adjacent to, I assume, a new development, is that what's going on?
Correct.
And you want to put in streetlights associated with the project?
Correct.
And so now I'm there, and there's a new streetlight out there, but I'm going to be paying potentially $128 annually for that streetlight that I didn't necessarily ask for.
So the streetlights are already there, which is my understanding, and the assessment has already been accounted for in the homeowners association budget for this property.
Homeowners Association budget.
So this is a townhouse development, and each townhome owner, is my understanding, will pay their portion of the assessment, which has already been accounted for in the budget, which was provided to them prior to purchasing their home.
So this entire project is not necessarily out in the main thoroughfare of old homes and that sort of thing. This is specifically to one townhome project?
That's my understanding.
I believe so.
I'm sorry?
I believe so. Well, I was hoping staff would be here to answer a couple of questions, but that is my understanding from speaking to staff previously, that this is one townhome project and like a sort of an infill.
I guess we have a few of these.
This
The next
specific
couple. The next
project is
couple.
one townhome project of 23 townhomes. So it's my understanding that this applies specifically to this one project.
And you are, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
I'm a representative of the developer. My name, David Moskovitz.
So, are we talking about blank ground here, or are we
No,
talking
sir.
about?
So
what's going
there's 23 townhomes being developed, as well as a portion of retail, approximately 6,500 square feet. Out of the 23 townhomes, 8 of them have currently been developed, and 6 of them have been sold.
Okay. And you're saying that when these folks bought, that was included in their documents?
So as part of the budget that they're provided when purchasing a home, these line items, an approximation of them were included.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Moskovitz?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is anyone here to publicly comment on item number 57? Okay. Anyone wish to move the resolution?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, what, sir? Oh, yes, sir. May I have a motion to close 57? A motion by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we move to 58.
Julie Hardy, Legal Department. This is the same situation as the last one, where in December, council approved the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem assessments for funding streetlights within the approved boundaries of this special assessment. And today's public hearing is to adopt the special assessment rule, and the petitioner is here for any questions, and I'm here as well.
Any questions from council? Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Massey. Same
Yes,
question. You and I spoke about this a while back, but I didn't really ask this question, but are there any existing property owners who are going to be impacted by this?
No, sir. All the property is still owned by Lennar Homes, and we have an agreement with the city that mandates that we disclose that all the lot contracts, when we sell the lots or the homes to individual homeowners, we have a specific requirement per an agreement with the city of Tampa that we must disclose that there is a streetlight special assessment and the amount of it in that contract, so the homeowners will know that up front before they purchase their lots.
Great, thank you.
And Mr. Massey, can you state your name just for the...
Sorry, Morris Massey, Ward Henderson 101, East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700. Here on behalf of Lennar Homes. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Anyone here from the public to comment on item 58? If so, please come forward at this time.
Move the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, I believe a second by Councilman Goods. All
Move
in
to close the
favor?
hearing.
All in favor? And then we have a motion to close the hearing by Councilman Miranda, a second by Councilman Escalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we go to 59.
And so that one passed unanimously? Our last one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Julie Hardy, Legal Department. This is another public hearing on a streetlight special assessment approval of the special assessment rule.
Go ahead, sir. Please state your name.
My name's David Schmidt. I represent St. Martin's One LLC, the property owner.
Thank you. Any comments before we ask you any prospective questions?
Our petition is similar to the one of Lennar. We own the entire property. No one outside of our property is affected by this special assessment. We also have an agreement with the city that we will disclose of the special assessment prior to selling any of the lots. So it's pretty cut and dry. Everybody that's buying in there will know exactly what they're required to pay as far as the streetlights go.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council? Okay. Anyone here to publicly comment on item number 58? If so, please come, I'm sorry, 59. If so, please come forward. May I have someone move this resolution?
Wait,
That's all right. We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Any opposed? And did you wish?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we move to item 60.
Barbara Lynch, Land Development Coordination. VAC 1919 is a request to vacate an alley in East Tampa. It's been presented before, but I'm going to do a quick presentation again because this went back to first reading because of notice. Had to be redone. So I have a map for the overhead. And the alley is south of 29th, north of 28th, and runs between 34th and 35th Streets. The owner's property, the applicant is in red, and the alley to be vacated is outlined in yellow. This is the alley looking north on 28th Avenue. So that's the T, and this is the top end of the T. That's the north-south alley looking south on 29th Avenue. And this is the east-west alley looking west from 35th Street. This is the applicant's property. And staff has no objection to this request. A wastewater easement is required overall. And I just want, for Mr. Dingfelder, I wanted to give you our updated notice pictures here. So the signs were put in the correct place the second time around. So the notice was found to be adequate. Oh, any questions?
Any questions from council?
I don't know if these folks are going to speak, but I wanted to apologize for the delay to the petitioners and the burden of having to come down here twice. But you know, we like to dot our i's and cross our t's, so we do things right. So again, I apologize, but hopefully everything will work out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, petitioners.
No. Belinda Holly, represent 3404 East 28th Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council for the petition? Okay. Any comments or questions from council at all for anyone? Oh, no, I'm saying before we go move to public comment. Okay, is anyone here to publicly comment?
Don't leave yet, man.
No, we're not finished.
We have to vote. We have to vote first.
Is anyone here from the public here to comment on item number 60? We have a motion to close by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I don't know where we were on ordinances. Reading, what is the pleasure of council? Who would like to take this one? Councilman Goods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. File number VAC 19-19, ordinance being presented for reading consideration. Ordinance vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a certain portion of alleyway, right-of-way lying south of 29th Avenue, north of 28th Avenue, east of 34th Street, and west of 35th Street in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida. The same being more fully described in section 1 here, subject to certain easement, reservations, permits, conditions, and restrictions more particularly set forth in providing an effective date.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
second reading and adoption will be held on October 3rd, 2019 at
Thank you, ma'am.
9:30 a.m.
Okay, next we have item number 61. We have about 10 minutes until the close of council for break. I don't know if we should move, this may go a little bit further to 64 and 65. Yeah, let's do that after the break. Or, yeah. Yeah, let's, you know what, is council, I mean, we don't know what this hearing's gonna bring, but is everyone okay prospectively with going, maybe let's say 10 minutes past where we were designated for 12:25? Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Miranda, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will go, post haste.
Kristen Moore, Legal Department. This is an appeal of a decision of the zoning administrator. It is a de novo hearing under your code. We do have an interpreter here for this particular item, and so I will ask that the
interpreter be sworn in as an official interpreter, and then she will assist in the administration of the oath. I would just caution council members, I know that many of you speak Spanish, but we have to go off of the official record so that everyone's considering the same things. So please only consider the official interpretation when you hear this item. I'm available if you have any questions.
¿Alguien tiene preguntas? Anybody have any questions? Go ahead. And has everybody been sworn in? If you have not been sworn in, please stand up if you're able to do so and prepare to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And do you the interpreter? Yes. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will interpret correctly and basically?
Yeah, some of them.
Okay. You can borrow anything you have, Roger. Eric Kahn, Planning and Development, Planning, Design, Development Coordination. This is an appeal or petition for review for design exception for property in West Tampa. It's DE 119-178. The property is zoned RS50 and located at 2513 West Dewey Street. The applicant is Adrian Murphy Castro, represented by Marlena Gonzalez. The applicant started off with a code citation. This was based on, if you remember back in 2017, the city of Tampa did a sweep of West Tampa. This property was one of those properties that was cited at that point. One of the violations was for a second unit. That's been cleared up by neighborhood enhancement. That violation is no longer, as far as I know, is no longer an issue moving forward. At the same time, we cited them for the applicant for different zoning setback violations. When they were going through the process, originally they were asking for two things. In addition to setbacks, they were asking for a green space waiver. So at the time, we had them go before the variance review board to get scheduled before the VRB. They eliminated the green space waiver, so they tore up concrete, put back down grass. So now they're here, they may be converting them from a variance to a design exception, which is an administrative process. Came here for the zoning administrator reviewed the record, evidence available to us, and we denied the request. There's two requests that were denied through the process. One was to section 27-241E2C2, which requires the minimum side yard to be 5 feet. Along the, they were asking for reduction from 5 feet to 2 feet, which was denied. That's along the east side of the property, highlighted in red for this addition here. And the second thing they were asking for was the reduction in the building separation from 5 feet to 3.9 feet, measured eve to eve between the main structure and the accessory structure. Let me just show you a picture of the subject property. That's the front view of the property. This is the side view on the west side. And this is the east side view. They did have a second driveway here that's been removed and they planted back the grass. This is the adjacent property to the east and adjacent property to the west. Now the basis, when staff was reviewing the request, one of the things we looked at, they were cited. Okay. This is from the property appraiser's webpage. This was the property in 2006. Now the current owners did not own the property at that time. This was the layout. This was single-family home with an accessory structure. In 2009, Ariel, this was added on without permits. In 2014, structure, this was added on without permits. And then this is the latest structure, and this area looks like the back porch was added on without permits, prompting the need for all the different waiver requests from staff. Staff did not feel comfortable approving them. There are provisions in the code, the criteria that we review against. Work without permits is not a reason to ask for a waiver. The applicant will testify, records were checked, they did not own the property at the time most of the additions were made. The roof is new, they did get a permit for the roof. They removed the driveway to come into compliance with the green space. They just need waivers from, at this point, the city and council for the setback violations.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Miranda, then Councilman.
Not knowing what this is coming, what this was about, I had read 61. Earlier today, I spoke just about things like this. And you said this property was cited, so I guess code enforcement went on the property. Were they allowed on the property?
I don't know if you'd have to ask the applicant or the petitioner. I believe they were cited for a second unit. They've had a re-inspection to show the second unit's no longer, doesn't have a kitchen, it's no longer a second unit.
That's what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
A rental unit?
I don't know if it was a rental unit or was for a family member, that I don't know.
And by the way, since family members, we have to look at that law. I'm not gonna swallow a family member, and I don't care where it's at. Cuba has excellent records. You have DNA testing, you have all kind of things you can do now. I'm not gonna go that far, but I mean, it's very simple. You just gotta look at the water consumption of one unit, because they only got 1 meter. So if you have 5 houses, 10 houses on the block, and they all have about the same, all of a sudden one's up here, it doesn't make sense. The one that passed last time, I hate to say it, if you're a family member, you done built a wall, leave them out. But anyway, that's just my feeling. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, no, you're fine. Councilman Dingfelder.
Totally lost my train of thought on that one, Mr. Miranda, but.
I didn't mean to, I apologize.
No apology necessary. I know you're vigilant on our community. We appreciate that. Eric, have you looked at the property records to see when they purchased?
I did. I don't have a copy of their deed, but I believe it was in 2018 or 2019. It was recently.
So
they can confirm.
Okay. Well, and I will ask them, but I just wanted to hear what you found out. All right. Thank you.
I do want to clarify just for the two council members that were on VRB. This never got before the VRB.
That was my other question.
Yes. Kristen just reminded me.
Why didn't this thing go to the VRB?
In the special districts, Seminole Heights, and the overlay districts, East Tampa, West Tampa, and such, the code has a provision that you go through a design exception, which is an administrative process, instead of going before the board.
Okay. So here they are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, applicant?
You don't want any?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Citro, did you have something, sir?
I'm here if you do.
Ms. Mora, so sometimes they all seem to be the same when I was on VRB. I was not present at any type of hearing concerning this case with VRB.
Not to my knowledge, Councilman.
Thank you. I think that settles that, Mr. Shelby.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Day of conflicts. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Adrian Murphy. I don't speak English. My English is little bit. Yeah. Entonces.
So you can speak Spanish to the
Yeah.
interpreter, and she will interpret.
Yes. Nosotros queríamos rectificar lo que dijo, que nosotros compramos esa casa en el 2016.
Excuse me if I can. As an interpreter, would you just, if you could break it up in a way that you can actually accurately interpret rather than paraphrase, if you can, rather than recount what he said, but do it in a short period of time so he can be able to communicate clearly to council what he is actually saying.
A couple of sentences at a time.
Yes.
Que
I would like to just to rectify. Here? Okay, oh, sorry, okay. I would like to rectify the date of the purchase of the home.
2016.
2016.
Y solo llevamos 3 años en ella.
And we have been with this property for 3 years only.
Y cuando nosotros compramos esta casa, nos asistió una compañía de realtors.
When we purchased this property, we were assisted by a realtor's company.
Y nosotros compramos esta casa porque estaba deshabitada.
And we purchased this house because it was dehabitated.
Estaba en muy malas condiciones.
In very bad conditions.
Y gracias a eso pudimos comprarla.
And thanks to that, we were able to purchase it.
Porque no teníamos dinero para comprar una casa mejor, con mejores condiciones.
Because we weren't able to purchase a house in better conditions.
Yeah. Entonces, cuando la compañía nos asistió, la casa no tenía ningún problema y por eso decidimos comprarla.
When this company assisted us with the purchase, the property didn't have any issues. That's why we went ahead and we decided to buy the house.
Y decidimos ya que la compramos, repararla para vivir en ella.
And after we purchased it, then we decided just to repair the house so we're able to live on it.
Que actualmente quienes viven son mis padres.
Actually, my parents are the one who live in the house.
Ellos viven ahí desde que se compró y quisieron vivir hasta que fallezcan en ella.
And they have lived there since we got the house, and they would like to live there until they pass away.
Nosotros tenemos unas imágenes de la casa que cuando se compró, desde hace aproximadamente un año, empezaron a la ciudad a mandarnos violaciones.
And we have some pictures to show you, and it was like about a year ago when we started receiving violations from the city.
Cosa que nosotros no sabíamos que tenían violaciones si no hubiéramos comprado la casa.
And that is something that we didn't know, otherwise we wouldn't just bought that house.
Yeah. Entonces, aquí como él ya mostró, la casa cuando nosotros la compramos ya tenía todo esto construido. Lo único que nosotros le agregamos fue un storage para guardar las herramientas porque no teníamos suficiente espacio.
So in these pictures you can see that the construction was already done, and the only part that we added was storage unit that we needed to keep our tools.
Y no teníamos espacio suficiente. Y entonces todo eso estaba construido ya cuando yo compré la casa.
And all that was already built when we got the house.
Que nosotros no hemos hecho nada nuevo, que lo único nuevo que se hizo fue el driveway y el parqueo, pero ya nosotros removimos todo el driveway ese porque queremos que todo esté bien.
And other than that, we
And interpret it, and then we have a question. Go ahead, finish the last sentence.
So that part was already there, and the only thing that we did was the driveway, which we already removed, and
Espérate. Go ahead, sir. Councilman Wayne.
I'll talk to it in English. I can do it in both languages, but then the council, some I won't know, so I'll go in English. First of all, thank you for rehabbing a house. It's very complimentary to spend your time and your hard-earned money. So then, I was going to ask, was the house, you said this is the house that you bought in 2016, just like that, right?
Lo que dice usted es que usted compró la casa tal cual está en 2016.
This photo that you're showing us is the one that he said that this is how I bought it in 2016.
La foto que está usted mostrando es lo que dice usted que compró en 2016, ¿correcto?
En el 2016 fue como similar que fue el 2014, pero estaba más deteriorada que esta.
The one that I'm showing says 2014.
Yeah, but that's where the confusion comes in my mind. You can't buy it in 2016 like that because I heard him say that the driveway he put in.
Dice que por eso está confundido, porque dice que cómo puede ser en 2016 si él puede ver que el driveway estaba ahí.
Estaba ahí cuando yo lo compré.
You mean that the driveway was there when
The driveway was there when he bought it?
¿Estaba ahí el driveway cuando usted compró la casa?
No, solo estaba este driveway de aquí, pero si usted ve, aquí nosotros hicimos otro, pero ya nosotros lo removimos y nos aprobaron de que estaba solucionado eso.
Okay, there was another driveway right there.
So then the photo we should be looking at is the photo to the left, not the photo to the right.
Entonces tendremos que ver la foto de
Because that's pre, and that's after.
Entonces esta es la primera y esta es después.
Sí, pero ahora actualmente ya este driveway ya no existe, ya solo
Yeah,
nosotros
we saw that. We saw that.
es como
The driveway to the right is taken out.
Dice que él ya notó que el driveway del lado derecho ya se quitó.
Yes.
Pero tienes que explicarle
Porque tú dijiste que compraste la casa porque estaba en malas condiciones.
Sí.
Y
I'm
la
gonna ask you if
reparaste.
she could state her-
Explícale que
have
lo
her
que tú
name.
preparaste es que lo que hiciste fue que le pusiste el techo
Sí.
y le hiciste eso de dragway y le pusiste
And,
mática. No es que la casa
and she's
estaba
speaking,
bien.
she's speaking to him.
Oh, she's
So, yeah, she's not speaking to us, she's speaking to him, so.
So, do you- so am I allowed to?
And
Sure.
you
You gotta
may
give your name.
state your name, yes, ma'am.
Well, my name is Marlene Estrada and he's my husband. I asked for a translator because I did not want to be the translator directly. I didn't feel comfortable. So I wanted to just clarify that he mentioned that when he bought the house, it was in bad condition, which is true, and that he remodeled the house, kind of like that's what he said, he repaired the house. Really what happened was the house was not in good condition. It's still a wood house. It's still, a house from whichever year it was built.
Dile que-
What he did was to put roof on the house, one,
que no, que yo
for
mismo
which
lo
we
hice.
got permit.
espérate.
Okay, he did.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we got permit for the roof because, I know we need permit for the roof. I did not know that for all the stuff like the storage, if we ever needed permit, because I don't think, I was told that if it's less than 150 square footage, you don't need permit for a storage. So the repair that he's referring to was the roof, the house. Then there was one driveway and another one was not a driveway, so we kind of like changed a little bit the one that was already there by putting concrete on it, and then on the other one where there was grass, we put concrete too. We ended up removing the concrete and there is grass again over there to comply with the city. We had put some, decorations like, landscaping. So the city said that we needed to have more green on the house, so we removed the landscaping. So right now you see a lot of greens around the house. I just wanted to clarify that because you were confused with how, I think we just put the wrong picture. So what he was saying was the picture that you was seeing at that moment is not updated, because right now you should see another one that doesn't have that driveway. Am I making sense?
I understand, may I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes.
The structure in the back, the 20 by 25, I think it is, something like that. I'm not being specific, but something like that. Atrás la casa,
Yeah,
the edificio,
the-
20 by
yeah.
25. Is that a rental property or is it rented out or what?
No, it's not a rental property. Someone was staying there. It is completely vacant. If that is going to be an issue, we're willing to comply with the city. We have diligently comply with everything that the city have asked us to do since 2018. I have all the emails, all the phone call. Well, I cannot prove phone call, but I have all the communication. They know. We have done everything because we want to be in compliance. We did not know that the city, there was a problem with the setback of the house. If we would have known that all this was going to come to us, we would have not purchased the house because it was.
Yeah, but you never would have met us.
That's true. And also.
No, what I'm trying to get at, to simplify the whole thing, you got cited, you've done what you said you were gonna do, and now the only question in my mind remains, that apartment, it's not an apartment, that could be an apartment, does it have a stove?
When we purchased the house, it was an apartment. Probably somebody was staying there. I don't know if it was, they built it and a relative was living there, or it was just there.
Okay.
And somebody was staying there, family of them. Then we received the violation that, it was just a single family residence and all that, so we.
And what you're saying to us now is that you're gonna keep it as a single family dwelling.
The back
In
unit?
the back, you're not gonna have no one living there.
We're gonna do what you tell us to do.
No, I'm not gonna tell you anything. Your husband may tell you, but not me. May I ask of you? Puede ser que tú le puedes preguntar a él lo que quiere hacer, nosotros no vamos a meter en eso. Pero hizo un trabajo magnífico en la casa.
Gracias.
Yeah, and he
I
was,
did a magnificent job on the house.
Todo el trabajo nosotros mismos lo hemos.
I can see by your muscles you did all the work.
Sí, si usted ve la foto del Google, salgo yo incluso arriba del techo preparando.
You did a fantastic job.
And just
He
translate.
said, I was the one who did all the repairs in the house. I even showed myself in the picture on Google that I am already standing on the roof.
Good. Okay, and before I recognize Councilman Dingfelder and then Councilman Citro, I had said we were going to go up to 12:25. That concern was over lunch. Staff members have expressed concern on being able to have lunch at a decent time. How much longer do you think we have for this hearing? Maybe Okay, so is that okay with our friends? Good, fine. Okay, 5 minutes, post haste, let's do it. Councilman Dean.
Okay, could you go back one picture to the maps? The map, there you go. Okay, yep, that's it. Okay. During his presentation, he had mentioned about that the only structure that they added was a storage unit or utility structure or something like that. Can he point on the 2019 photo, perhaps with a pen or something, where that, which one that was added?
Usted dijo en la foto del 2019 que agregaron una unidad de storage, de almacenamiento. ¿Usted la señaló con una pluma o algo? ¿Cuál es la parte que usted señaló?
Es solo este cuadradito de aquí.
That square only.
Okay, and that's the only actual structure that they added.
Y fue la única estructura que usted agregó.
That's it.
Okay. When they purchased the property, did they have any relationship with the seller? In other words, was the seller a family member, a friend, or something like that?
Cuando compraron la propiedad, ¿ustedes tenían alguna relación con la persona que vendió? ¿O amigos o algo?
No sabemos ni quién
Okay.
era.
We call that an arm's length transaction.
He said no, nobody was living there, it was vacant.
Okay. Eric, very quickly, just I'm trying to expedite this.
Yes, sir.
The little shed that they pointed to, it looks like something existed there in 2014.
Yes, sir.
So, what are we seeing? What are you seeing? And is that structure?
This is slightly enlarged, and I think it's attached to the main structure. I think it's all attached as one structure now.
Okay. And so therefore, it's not in code, it's not set back properly, et cetera.
Correct.
Even the little new structure.
Correct.
One other question.
Yes.
You pulled permits for the roof properly.
Solicitó los permisos para el techo correctamente.
Yes.
Why didn't you pull a permit for that little shed? Or the improvements on that little shed?
¿Por qué no solicitó el permiso para eso que usted construyó en la pequeña?
Porque eso solo tiene como unos 70 pies y no pensé que necesitáramos permiso para eso.
Because the measurement of that area is just like about 70 square feet, and I didn't know that I needed a permit for
Es solo
that.
And there was something already existing there that he just kind of tore down and improved?
¿Y había algo que ya existía ahí que usted solo derribó y lo mejoró?
No.
Well, looking at those two pictures, it appears,
Viendo las fotos.
I can't
había
point
cosas.
to it, but looking at those two pictures, it appears that there was something there.
Looking at that.
Yeah, there and then there.
Parece que había algo ahí.
Porque ahí lo que había era como un concreto solo, pero muy sucio y roto.
It was just like concrete, it was very dirty and broken.
Yo solo lo reparé y le puse un techito.
And I just fixed it and then I put a little roof on it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Councilman Citro.
I would like to get back to Councilman Miranda's question. The back structure, is there going to be a stove in there, or are you going to take out the kitchen in the back structure? Just for the record.
La estructura que está atrás, ¿ustedes van a guardar ahí, van a dejar ahí la cocina o qué es lo que van a hacer en esa parte?
¿Qué estructura?
La estructura de atrás, la parte de atrás.
el apartamento.
Sí.
No, ahí no hay cocina, solo hay como una meseta, un counter y un freezer, pero ahí no vive nadie, está solo
There's no
vacío.
kitchen at all, it's just a counter and there is just like a freezer and that's it.
And there is no plans to put one in there?
I'm sorry?
And there is no plans to put a kitchen in
No
that
tiene
building?
planes de poner una cocina ni nada ahí. No.
Gracias.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anyone? Okay, next we go to public comment for this item, for item number 61. Is anyone here from the public here to comment on item number 61? If so, please come forward.
Tenía algo más que decir y se me olvidó.
I would like to add something.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Sobre que nosotros, dado el caso, le presentamos el problema a los vecinos y ellos nos dieron una firma de que ellos no tienen ningún tipo de problema con la propiedad Incluso ellos están contentos de que nosotros estamos embelleciendo el barrio.
Okay, based on all these things, we asked our neighbors if there was an issue, and they gave us a signature, and basically to validate that they are okay with us being there and making the neighborhood pretty.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, gracias. Okay, may I have a motion to close?
Move close.
We have a motion by Councilman Booth, a second by Councilman Maniscalco, all in favor? Any opposed? Who would like to take those? Councilman Maniscalco.
Well, we've heard, from them that they've complied as best they could. They purchased this house after majority of these things were done, or actually almost all these things were done. They put a new roof, they applied for a permit, they worked with the city in trying to make sure that they follow the rules as the new homeowners. I think they honestly did not know upon purchasing the home, but since then they've been, good stewards and whatnot and trying to do the right thing. So having said that, I move to reverse the zoning administrator's design exception application DE 1-19-178 because the petitioner has demonstrated that the petition, if the waivers are granted, is consistent with the applicable general standards set forth herein in section 27-60E5. And I don't think I would have to add any facts or citations. They've pled their case, they've worked with code enforcement, they've worked with the city, they've pulled permits moving forward on the new roof and everything as deemed necessary. So that would be my motion.
I agree with you, and I'll second that. However, I'd like to have little assurances that they put on the record that that building in the back will not be an apartment as long as they own the house.
Sure. Okay.
Move to reopen.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to move to reopen. Councilman Citro, do I have a second to reopen? Second, Councilman Dingfelder. Okay, you want to ask the questions?
Yeah. We're going about getting ready to vote, and I think you may have a vote from what I see. The only thing, what I like to see is that structure in the back, that your 20, 25, whatever it is from the left side of the house as we're looking at it, will not be an apartment.
Ok, eso ya están listos para hacer la votación. En su caso, lo único que él quiere asegurarse es que en la parte de atrás no va a haber ningún tipo de apartamento o departamento que se vaya a habitar en la parte de atrás. Quiere asegurarse.
Está bien, sí.
Yo pensé que lo había dicho de la historia, te lo hablaban un poco. No, no está bien. Igualmente desea que fuera el storage de la parte de atrás, tú no vas a rentar eso.
Can you please translate what she just said?
She said, I just need you to let them know that either the storage or the back area, we won't rent it at all.
Will not.
Rent it, put it on.
Will not be an apartment.
The apartment, yeah. No va a haber apartamento y departamento.
No, sí, eso en esa área lo que hay un storage, en el otro está un laundry y todo eso es como abierto, eso no hay ni cuarto ni nada.
No, there's only the storage unit, and then there's an open laundry, and the rest, it will just stay like that. It's just open.
So it's a correct statement to say no apartments in the back, correct?
Es correcto decir que su declaración es que no habrá nada, un departamento en la parte de atrás, ¿correcto?
Yes.
See, yes, okay. May I have a motion to close? A motion by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Citro, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we had a motion on the floor by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Gracias.
Okay. We are going to take a about 45-minute break. Is that good for lunch? Let's do 1:30. Is that okay with everybody?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.